We have some new tour dates, and these are some new ones. Memphis, Tennessee, we've added a show August 4th and 5th at the Cannon Center for the Performing Arts. I know the Chattanooga show sold out. Don't worry. Don't go get a fancy price ticket. We will come back, and you'll have another opportunity. Toronto, Ontario, August 30th, an 8th show added in Toronto. San Jose, California, we've added a second show, September 14th and 13th. Oakland, California, September 16th at the Paramount. Akron, Ohio, we've added a show on the 8th or 7th. Washington, D.C., we've added a show October 19th and 20th. If your city is sold out, just keep an eye out. We'll come back through. We also have some tickets left for Windsor, Ontario on August 18th. Get your tickets through theovon.com/TOUR. And thank you so much for coming out and supporting the Return of the Rat Tour. Today's guest is an iconic comedian, actor. I watched one of his movies not long ago. It's so good. This is his second time on the podcast. He's out of Indiana, and he has a new special coming out on Amazon next week called Dark Pale. He has a new television series, too, you can check out called Full Circle on Max. I'm grateful to chop it up with my buddy today, Mr. Jim Gaffigan.
Shine that light on me. I'll sit and tell you my stories. Shine on me, and I will find a song I will sing it. I'm gonna stay.
I don't know what if you're with a podcasting thing but it's like the impact. See, that looks better, probably.
Yeah, that looks nice.
I'm a good-looking guy.
Does
it feel like you're getting?
Does it
you've
feel
got
like the
something
podcast is
special
getting
here?
busier?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it's getting busier. I feel like we've been really lucky. I think we're independent, too, since we don't work with a network. I think that people like that.
What makes you connect with people? I mean, it's the everyman thing, but it's also like, is there another, authenticity? People crave that, right?
Yeah, maybe they do. I think they probably do, especially these days,
Yeah.
I think we want to try and, if I hear something that's real or somebody's talking about something that means something to them, I think it means a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know why. We've been really fortunate. We've gotten to have some unique guests. I think, I've always enjoyed talking to all different types of people. I think I'm a late learner kind of. Some podcasters, they have a lot of information.
Right.
I don't have it.
Right.
But I am curious about a lot of stuff.
Curiosity is key, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I want to learn still. Yeah, you look handsome, man.
Oh, thank you.
What's the most handsome you've ever felt in your life? You ever think about that? Like, was there ever
That's a very good question. As a male model, I struggle with it. No, I don't think I've ever really felt particularly handsome. I always seem to look at pictures from the past and go, oh, I should have been happier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Having teenagers, it's so brutal being a teenager. And I'm like, dude, you got it good. Your metabolism's working still.
Yeah.
You can have a pint of ice cream. It doesn't make a dent.
Your dexterity.
Yeah.
Your hair health is your hair is strong.
You don't
have a mustache yet.
They don't hear, like, when people like aches and pains, they don't have aches and pains, really.
Not a chance.
But I don't know. I never really felt particularly good looking. I feel like that's never been an asset How about you?
You seem like I feel like a Nordic area you would be a I could see you being like
Hasselhoff in Sweden?
yeah.
No, I
Like yeah.
that's very kind of you.
Like a Nordic kind of mountain model.
There is among comedians there is this strange thing where I think some comedians get embraced as being attractive, but I don't think that's not a theoretical thing that, like Steve Carell, like I think there was like, this is just maybe me, getting it from Twitter, but women were like, Steve Carell, it's like, I'm like, Steve Carell.
Yeah,
And
I
so
didn't see that coming.
yeah, but I don't think that's not in the likelihood or the possibility for me.
What about like in the 1700s or something? Like, was there a time period you think? Because I think you're handsome. Your height, you're tall, so that gives you some handsomeness.
Well, pale, and then there was the Rubenesque period. Like,
oh yeah,
being pudgy means that you're not poor, and being pale means that you're not working in the field. But I don't think that's been relevant.
Oh, you'd have been the Rock, dude, in the 1600s.
1600s, there would have been posters. I mean, they all would have been drawn. They're like, did you see how pale and fat that guy is? Oh my God.
God, he's beautiful.
He's so hot.
Is that Emily Ratajkowski?
Right? I would be like the male Ratajkowski of, think about like the breakthrough. I mean, there's so many beautiful women, but Emily Ratajkowski, like you brought that up. I knew exactly what you mean. What is it about her, and how long have you been dating her?
Yeah. Because
it's not out of the possibilities. I'm a married man, but I don't know. You could date her.
I don't get Emily Ratajkowski.
You don't get it?
I get that she's pretty.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, she looks pretty to me, but I don't get hit on by that type of gal. No. I get who do I get?
Well, let's put it out there.
I get a lot of like people like kind of rural women.
Right.
Will send me like a nude picture, kind of be like, drive out here and eat this. They'll say stuff like that.
Because they're ladies, right?
Good point.
And it sounds like it involves some travel.
Yeah, well, it's out.
Travel.
A lot of them are outside of the city limits.
It's a connecting flight too, which is like, you're like, but I'm kind of a suburban rural guy too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I think, and I don't know if we talked about this last time, but like there is something of, I mean, look, I live in New York and I've lived in New York for 30 years, but like when like these different markets, these cities or smaller towns, like I have a good time there. Like when I hang out in Cedar Rapids or Fort Wayne, I'm like, and I'll go to a restaurant, I'm like, yeah, this feels very familiar, and like,
want your pie first, sir?
No, but do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
it's like a steakhouse in Cedar Rapids. Yeah, I'd prefer that than a super fancy restaurant in New York or LA.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. I think I do too. I think you feel more at ease, more comfortable, more likely to see a fight. I feel like there's more, somebody will come over and say they like your blouse or your shirt or something. You can wear an apron in there and people don't look at you weird.
Yeah, like there is, like if a guy, no one's in an outfit. Like that's
right.
Like if no one's kind of dressing like Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
They dress like Eddie Vedder. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'll see the most beautiful women.
Oh God,
the most beautiful. Like, you ever been to like?
That's Monsanto, dude. Monsanto will preserve a babe. You know what I'm saying? You get some of those field dames, those daughters of farmhands, brother.
Well, I just think of like times when I've been on bus tours with my family and we'll go horseback riding, And there will be just like working at some horse ranch, the most beautiful woman in the world. And, you know, she probably sleeps with the horses and she smells like the horses, but not an ounce of makeup on her. And she's better looking than any woman in the city.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm a great guy. I don't know if I brought that up yet.
No, I think, look, you seem like a great guy, and I think it's it's interesting. I think like how we feel beauty, how we feel if we're handsome. I think it's interesting because I'll look at old pictures of myself as well and be like, man, you had a chance with girls. You didn't think you had any chance in the world,
right?
But you were, or you just thought so lowly of yourself. But man, you were doing good.
Yeah, no,
you wasted the time. That's what I feel like sometimes I go back on it.
Well, I think there's anxiety, and you know, there's the chemicals racing through you when you're a teenager. It's hard. By the way, I think you know, having a couple I think it's way harder to be a teenager now than it was.
Is it really?
Oh, brutal. So when we went to high school, we were compared to this pool of people in our school. I mean, kids today, they're compared to everyone on social media. It's brutal.
Oh, that's true. I never thought about that.
And so, like, also the adventures that we would go on to, like, find, you know,
mushroom,
weed, or pornography.
Oh,
it was an adventure. And now it's kind of thrust on these kids. And so, you know, I'm sure there's scientific explanation, but it's almost like, you know, you had to go on a scavenger hunt to even get in trouble, at least for me.
Right. So there was a journey to it too.
Yeah.
You know,
whereas now it's you know, it's pretty easy. You can get it delivered now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's great when you're 30, 40, but like when you're 15 or 18, it's like, it's almost too easy to get weed now.
Oh, yeah. It's too easy to get high. It's too easy to get anything. I mean, I remember with pornography, we had this dude in our neighborhood named, they called him Skittle was his nickname. And he was like impaired or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, he had impairment.
Well,
And
what kind of impairment?
he didn't have, his legs didn't work.
Yeah. So he was he was handicapped.
He was bipedal or whatever. What is that called?
Paraplegic?
Yeah, this para.
So like just his, like, was he in a wheelchair?
Yeah, he was in a wheelchair, but sometimes they would at the video store his like handler or whatever, who was his cousin, would like get him out and let him crawl under the into the nudie room in there.
Oh, that's nice.
And people would be, I mean, you would kind of, because you knew he was probably, and I hate to say this, you knew he was never going to mate in his life, right? Probably.
Well, I mean, by the
but
way,
people would be so excited. You know, they'd be like, Skittles in the nudie room.
Skittle.
You know?
And was he called Skittles because he enjoyed the candy Skittles, or?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think he said, from what I think he liked all candies, I remember, but he just, yeah, people, I don't know. There was just something excited about him. People would be like, oh, Skittles in the nudie room, and people would be so excited.
It's so amazing how there was a nudie room. There was, I mean, the Blockbuster was just kind of like, hey, we're not going to have that.
Yeah, we don't believe in that.
But like the off kind of like the independent stores, there would be kind of like movies, you know, like regular movies, and then there would be like the R-rated, I mean the kind of like naughty stuff, and you would have to, like, if you would go, even as a teenager or like in your 20s and you had curiosity, you needed a reason to go over there.
Right.
You needed, like, hey, why don't we go over here just to check it out? Like, you couldn't go in and make a beeline for it.
Yeah.
You had to be like, this is so silly. What's this stuff? Oh my gosh, what's this?
Yeah, are they selling cigarettes in here?
What is this? Oh, this is gross.
Yeah.
But now a kid just turns on. I mean, by the way, Twitter, like, I don't know if you get this.
Twitter's very dangerous.
It's like, there's like, just, I don't know, open the pictures just because I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
But there's like, they say the spam or the robots send you pornography.
It's insane.
And you're like, I'm trying to like, because, you go through a process, I think, most men, where you're like, all right, I'm going to set some boundaries. There's nothing too productive in consuming pornography. So I'm gonna set up some boundaries or some barriers. But like when it's thrown at you.
Yeah. And why are robots doing that? That makes me believe even more in like in UFOs when people are like, yeah, they took me somewhere, they put something in my butt, and they dropped me back off. Like it's always
they're always putting stuff in people's butts too.
And and at first I'm like, would they really do that? But then now that I see that these other robots are just emailing people like it's these bots or whatever, like emailing porn to people, it's like obviously these aliens are perverts. I don't
know if it's aliens, but I don't know what, I mean, I guess I've never clicked on it, but like I guess it's to get you to watch their porn, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think different people want you like, come over here, step right up,
Yeah.
We'll guess how much semen's in you, we'll guess that, your weight in semen or whatever.
When I was a teenager, I thought you had a limited supply. I thought you could run out.
Oh, dude, the first erection I ever got, it was coming up, and I thought it was like a poop in my body that it was going the wrong way.
That's a normal response. And you really thought it was a poop?
Yeah, it was so scary because it was the same shape, and I was like, "Oh my god, dude! One of my poops is lost."
I mean, even like it's just so.
It was so scary. Remember part of your body growing, and people thought it would grow forever. I had a buddy who got so scared he thought his whole body would grow into a wiener, and like there would be nothing left of him, and then the wiener would grow, and then it would go back, and he would reform.
Yeah, I just remember having leg spasms. And did your nipples hurt?
Yeah. Remember that? No one talked to you about it.
Yeah. Well, when I was growing up, no one talked to you about any of that stuff. There was just you had to figure it out. And I thought I was mentally ill. I mean, I am mentally ill, but like, I thought, oh my God, I'm like the biggest pervert in the world. And the reality is I was just like a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You know what I mean? Yeah. No one was like, hey, because I've kind of done that. I'm like, look, hey, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Yeah. It just means, I'm not saying engage in it. I'm not saying go full animal, even though some people do. But like, it doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Yeah, it's true that I think in the past there's been a lot of that energy, like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like if you walked up to a monkey at the zoo, because monkeys, they say some of the monkeys will masturbate and stuff 6 to 7 times a day at the zoo. So if you saw somebody walk in there to one of them and be like, sit them down in a chair on the side of the...
Shame them.
Yeah.
Say you're filthy.
Yeah, you're filthy.
Stop
you're
behaving like an animal.
Yeah. Or I'm not going to drive you to school in the morning
too.
if you keep doing this. You'd be like, that person's crazy for saying that to that monkey.
Right. Or there'll probably be some people that are like, finally someone's telling that monkey to stop doing that. It's all relative, right? And then there's people that would be like, I can't believe that you're judging that monkey's behavior. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there'd be somebody else being like, that monkey can choose its own pronouns. And we'd be like, it's not about that, okay? The monkey is just jerking off too much.
And, there's that. And then there's also throwing the shit.
Yeah,
right?
they throw a lot of, anything that comes out of their body, they're willing to throw it.
Why do I feel like...
Kind of like Mardi Gras.
We have, but there's no beads, right? Like if they, or maybe that's their beads, right?
Just throwing that out.
They're naked all the way. Like it's not like they're even flashing, because like supposedly if you flash, then like women flash.
Yeah, they show their breasts to see the beads, but to get the beads. But the problem was at Mardi Gras, and I'll say this, man, is that the breasts you saw
were good or bad?
They were not good.
Right.
They were drunk. They looked like some of them had been drinking, like the breast alone had been drinking.
Right.
By itself, even some of them.
Yeah.
That's
another problem with pornography is we set up false expectations of what breasts are supposed to look like.
Yeah.
That's another reason not to watch porn. right?
Well, you've kind of gone with the game. I mean, I'm sure you've seen in your lifetime where fake breasts really popped off. Do you remember the first time you were like, wow, they're putting in?
Yeah, there was I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm not a huge, like, there's part of me that's the whole huge breast thing. It's weird, like, for me, it doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? And some guys like big breasts, some guys like big butts. I'm kind of, I don't know,
Decent woman.
Yeah, I like shape, but I don't like, and it's a mystery to me because some guys really like big butts. Some guys really like. I remember when I first started stand up, I was doing some road gig, and this headliner was like, "Here, I want to show you something," and he showed me, and it was a Polaroid of him with a woman that had like enormous, like gigantic, and he was kind of bragging. He was like, see who I met, and I was like,
this is what you're headed towards, brother.
I was like,
you play your cards right.
and I wanted to be polite, and I was polite, but I was like, that's that's obviously she needs help. You know what I mean? But like, and I didn't want to rain on his parade, but he was like, that's what got him off. That was like, I'm sure he probably still has that Polaroid.
Yeah.
He probably, like, maybe when he dies, he's buried with the Polaroid of the woman with the gigantic boobs. Yeah. Some guys, it's interesting how
that's all they care about, boy. Look at them boobs.
Different tastes.
Yeah, I think, they started to get, some of the boobs started to look like somebody had filled up a Glad bag too big,
Right.
You ever have that when somebody pulls a Glad bag out of like at a restaurant when they're doing the dumpster, and they pull the bag out of that can and it's way too heavy for the bag,
And it's not going to make it. And there's liquid. There's liquid dripping out, and you're like, that's gonna be a mess.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's just gonna be a mess. It's weird. I need to know. All right, so are you a big boob guy or a little, like, if you told me you're like, I like enormous boobs, I wouldn't be shocked. And I don't mean that as an insult.
No, it's fine.
But like, are you a big boob guy? Are you a big butt guy?
I think I'm more of probably I think I like I think I'm more of probably a mid-range. I like a little bit of buttocks.
Yeah.
I like a woman that's healthy enough to conceive.
Right.
I don't like, I'm not into those kind of needle army looking, the kind of girls who look a little bit too weathered.
Yeah.
Like I need a woman that's healthy enough to be able to have a family.
Right.
So I think that's a big thing for me. There was what was the question you asked me?
It was about like types of women. Because here, I'll bring this up. My brother, one of his, he liked a woman that looked good in a baseball cap and a turtleneck, which I thought was really interesting. And I mean, that's a setup for a joke. He's, like now he's like a serial killer.
Right.
No, but it is interesting. He really, like, if she looked cute in a baseball cap, he was like, she looks good. Yeah, she's great. You know what I mean? And so, like, there's different things. There's types, right?
That's a good point. There's different scenarios you want your woman to look good in, kind of. That's it. That's a really good point.
Right. It's kind of like, I remember when I was considering asking my wife to marry me, I was like, you know what? I could have fun folding laundry with her. I mean, now we hate each other, but at the time, we could totally.
But you've earned that hatred.
But it is like one of those things where it's not just about how they look in a small skirt. You know what I mean? It is about, and not just like they're fun at, at a
ski
club
ball
or something. Right. But it is interesting.
First impressions matter. They do. It's important. How do you present yourself? And for me, I like to take care of myself. I like to take care of my skin, keep my skin decent. and manicured, baby. That's what I like to do. And I use Caldera Lab. I use their regimen. It's called The Regimen, actually. And Caldera Lab creates a high-performance men's skincare product. And the regimen leads off their product lineup. It's a twice-a-day routine to transform your skin. God, look at his skin. I want some of it. That's right. The Caldera Lab, the bundle. You'll find the Skincare Dream Team, the Clean Slate, the Base Layer, and the Good. They even have an eye serum, if you like that, called the Icon. If you don't like all that, that's fine. But if you do, Caldera Lab, get 20% off with our code Theo at Caldera Lab. That's CALDERALAB.com. That's 20% off at calderalab.com by using code Theo. Jump into skin and first impression royalty with Caldera Lab.
So your ideal woman, let's put it out there.
Okay,
Who
let's
is
put it
your
out there
ideal
then.
woman?
I would say she has nice eyes, like kind
Nice
of caring eyes.
Like eyes. Oh, warm eyes.
Warm eyes.
Yes, because that is true.
It's important. It's important to the
Yeah.
kids, too.
Yes, definitely.
You know, you don't want some cold-eyed, freaking slithering broad,
yeah.
making, even serving muffins to your children.
No.
So warm-eyed. I would say hardworking.
Hardworking. Sense of humor is really important.
Yeah, sense of humor or the ability to laugh. Even being able to laugh, though, is also like having an inverse sense of humor. Like
Yeah.
if somebody's a good laugher, I think it's just as, it's almost better than a sense of humor because at least they're having the joy, you know?
By the way, the hard worker thing I think is really key too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is a very hard worker, and that's great because then you can do less. No, but it is. I mean, we have a similar work ethic. We enjoy working. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say working. I'm not saying like, hey, let's go grab some construction shifts.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's fulfilling for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and life's hard work. It's like if you want to stay in a marriage, it seems like it's a lot of like if you really want anything to work, you got to do it. You know, that's what it seems like.
Yeah. How tall?
How tall? I would say anywhere probably 5'6"
Yeah.
to 6'1".
Okay. And how tall are you?
I'm willing to go on the outlier side with the height. I am 6 foot.
You wouldn't care if she was taller.
I don't think I would care as long as she didn't do little things to me, like probably pat me or something like
Or
that.
call you
know?
shorty.
Yeah. Yeah. Or say, hey, give me that little wiener. You know, like things like that.
And what about do you want her to be younger than you, older than you?
I would probably say younger than me. You know, I want her to be able to bear children if she wants to.
Yeah.
But then I got to make sure that I'm in a good space too. You know, I don't want to be some philanderer.
Right.
And I don't want to be a man who's peeking over the fence and, talking to the neighbor's wife.
Right.
And I don't want to be...
you shouldn't be neighborly. You shouldn't be talking even to a neighbor. No, but you're saying, so you want to also be mature. You want to be to the point. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be doing any more I don't want to do any more conniving or any, I want to, I just want to be locked in.
Yeah.
Did you have a point where you were like, was it scary for you when you were like, okay, I'm going to get married. This is it. Like, did you have your mom, who dropped you off to go ask your wife? Or did you drive over there? Or how did you do it?
I was, my mom dropped me off. No, no, I was at my brother's house. We'd gone back. We used to go back and we'd go to Indiana and then we'd drive through Chicago and go to Milwaukee, where my wife's from. And my wife and I, we had this agreement that she was going to tell me when she was ready to be proposed, because, the whole, you don't, there's no risk. You don't want them to be like, no. And you don't want you to process no. So, and we had talked about it. We had dated for a while. And I was at my brother's place and we were smoking a cigar in his garage. And I said, I tell you, if I had a ring, I probably would ask her. And he goes, oh, I can give you a ring. I'll give you mom's old ring. I used it and you can use it. And I was like, oh. And so then.
You're really on the spot.
And I was like, All right. But, again, I had also kind of made that decision. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So the decision had already been made.
Yeah.
Kind of, okay.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, my brother told me to do it, so I did it. You know what I mean? So, and then we went up there, and I knew that I kind of wanted to surprise her. And so I did it right in front of her entire family. She's one of 9 kids, and we had done opening presents, and I had asked her dad for permission. He was like cooking in the kitchen. He's kind of a great guy, but like at that point we didn't know each other that well. So he was like taking something out of the oven. I was like, hey, I'd like to ask your daughter to marry me. And he's like, yeah, okay. And so then we were opening presents, and all the presents had been opened, and then I did it. And it was...
Did you feel nervous? Did you get down on one knee?
It's so... Well, I think as a comedian, there's so many... there's so many awkward situations we go in.
That's a good point.
Where you have a show where you eat shit. You have a show where you do okay, but you can tell half the audience thinks you're a moron. You know what I mean? So, like, it was awkward. It was nice, but I'm also, these watershed moments for me are, they're not nearly as important as like, the moment where I feel like I really connected with my wife. Like my child being born, there was, it was special, but it's not as special as like, the time when you take a walk with them.
Right.
For me.
And
you
you
know
have
what I mean?
some, and there's like a real connection.
Do you know what I mean? Or like,
right. Those are kind of just built-in tentpole moments that are kind of almost, I don't want to say old-fashioned. They're very important.
Yeah.
But that it's not like, it doesn't mean everything.
For me, if I'm being honest.
That's a good point. No,
yeah.
I think it's a really good point for everybody. We put all these it's almost like we put these kind of like tyrannical, like emotional attachments to these moments, even though they might not be there because times have kind of changed. So having a wedding these days, which is really just a huge party that takes so much planning, which is more about the planning than it is even the vows.
Yes, and the unnecessary stress.
Oh God!
Put on
and the sangria, all these.
Yeah,
it's
just
a
like,
lot.
Oh
of
my
these.
God, the bread was wrong. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, who cares, dude?
Right?
I barely know this woman.
Who cares? She's pregnant. That's the only reason I'm here.
Yeah, has anybody mentioned that? They should have a vote at weddings, like, should we do it or not? And people have to really vote.
That's funny.
Wouldn't be a bad idea, would it?
I mean, a silent, and because it's also your loved one, so it's a really harsh thing. And you shouldn't be able to open it until the next day. It's like the vote came in. Well, it's like a Rotten Tomato score, like, as long as we get 80%.
Yeah, that's it.
But you're like, 43%.
Yeah.
That's not good. But what the audience score say?
A lot of old tropes and misdirected plot twists, but
a lot of people don't believe in me. They think I'm going to cause the
but
disaster.
your family should have a vote. I feel like, because you're bringing that genetics into your gene pool.
Well, yeah.
It feels like the family overall should have a vote.
Well, there's also something that happens where I think it's probably different in different cultures and different family cultures, but you kind of get absorbed. I feel like the men get kind of absorbed into the woman's family.
Yes.
Much more than the woman getting absorbed into them. I mean, obviously
That's a good point.
Yeah, and so there is something of, like when you're dating someone and you meet their parents, you're like, okay, so this is the future, right? In some ways, but also their relationship. And my wife's mother is like a saint, and her dad's a real sweet guy. So I was like, all right, I'm in good shape. It was totally misleading. No, but it was fine.
Dude, I had an ex-girlfriend. Her dad would always be like, hey, he would say, like, whenever nobody was in the room, he'd be like, hey, listen to me. He would pass gas. He'd say, listen to me fart. And then he'd be like, don't tell anybody. Wow. And he was real serious about it. And it was so strange. And I'd never even said anything about it until now. But I just can't believe he even did that. Who would do
Yeah,
that?
that's very strange.
It's really weird. I think having like somebody dating your daughter, you don't have any power really.
No, you have no power. And
And the kid is a pervert, whoever he is.
Absolutely. He's a boy.
He's sick.
He's a boy.
Yeah.
I have a 19-year-old and I have a 14-year-old daughter. And so when my 14-year-old, when she was 13, and she would bring over these guys and I would try and, like you try different tactics as a dad. You're like, I'm going to be the friend.
Yeah.
And you want to get to know them. And they're all, they're boys. They're liars, right? And so
They're sick.
I remember there was this one kid who ended up being really sweet. But I was kind of like, I'm kind of like inappropriate. I try to test the boundaries. So I'm like, nice to meet you. I'd like to, would you like to see my knife collection? Thinking that would be really intimidating. And he's like, oh my God, I'd love to see a knife collection. And I was like, that's not what I wanted you to say. He was like, oh, cool, you got a knife collection? I'm like, no, I was trying to frighten you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but they also know, you're not going to hurt them. You know what I mean?
And you can't anymore. That's one of the problems too. And that's where a lot of fathers have lost a lot of their power. They used to have the ability to fire a warning shot into the air.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's gone. Yeah, I was thinking about, it's so like, even like us, what we think about ourselves, how we look. Like, I mean, I think a lot of comedians a lot of males got into it because they felt it was their way of gaining attraction from women. Did you
I think so.
You think? Yeah, I think so too.
Totally.
Probably.
I remember witnessing, like I had no confidence at all until my 30s anyway, but I remember, I had it in fits and spurts, but I remember when I started headlining at a comedy club and I would stand in the back watching, this is like they didn't have green rooms or anything like that, and I would stand in the back kind of watching, and I would see people come in, and there would be, attractive women coming in with their friends or dates or whatever. And they would be like, who are you? They didn't know who I was. They didn't care. And then I would do the show. And then those same women would be treating me completely differently. And intellectually, I would know, it was the show. They think I'm something that I'm not. They think that I'm something special. I have to make a point of never believing the hype. And then after 6 months, I was like, you know what? I'm good looking. I kind of totally bought the hype.
Yeah.
Like, so we just get we're so dumb. We're so dumb. It's like, it's not that I'm on stage and commanding authority over a crowded room of 300 people. It's because they actually think I'm good looking. Essentially, I'm just a fool. You know what I mean?
But then some guys who are not attractive men their confidence gets them to attractive.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's really part of the trick, I think.
Yeah. I even feel like when you look at, remember when you would, I don't know if you'd ever look at a yearbook and, or photos of when you were a kid, and you'd see a kid that you'd be, a girl, you'd be like, oh my God, she was really good looking.
Yeah.
And why didn't we think, because she was struggling, you know what I mean? And didn't have the confidence. And whereas there were girls that were confident, that we were just like, because we were dumb boys, we were like, duh, they think they're good looking, maybe they're good looking.
Yeah.
And it's so much of it is confidence. And it's like, I just wish as a parent I could just, because my kids are pretty confident, but I just wish that like in those moments, because I remember being a teenager, it's hard.
Yeah, huh?
And people are like, just act confident. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm filled with anxiety.
Yeah. And I remember having acne so bad. Did you ever have acne?
Oh, I was this pale kid. And whenever I would talk in public,
You would
I would
turn red.
turn red.
Oh.
And so I was just this goofy guy who was pale and like, I was the palest person anyone had ever seen.
Oh.
So it was, but that's probably, contributed to me being a comedian.
Like a
so.
dumpling kind of.
Yeah, I was like a marshmallow,
Oh.
but a marshmallow that would turn red. I was a strawberry flavored marshmallow.
Wow, dude. Yeah. Well, it's what's really interesting is if you think back to like the beginning of before they had mirrors and stuff, the only way you knew if you were the way you probably is if somebody told you how attractive you were or how
Right.
handsome or beautiful you were. So that had to be I bet that's when like connection was a lot stronger too between people because imagine if the way somebody's like, you're beautiful and you don't have any real thought of that yourself because you have never seen a reflection of yourself. And the way it makes you feel, you're like, wow, that feeling is so powerful. I feel really connected to this person.
Yeah. No, it's like, well, back then, I mean, just
Imagine.
how bad did they smell though?
But
You know
they
what I mean?
both smelled bad.
They both, I guess you got used to it, right?
I think not having shit on your legs was probably like that means you were ready to go out on the town. Because I feel like that would be something, I'm going to wash my legs off.
Well, that's what all the cologne and the perfume was for, is to cover up
Bad smell.
the smell of butt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
God. It'd be so much nicer if your butt was a little further away from you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Or you could detach it.
Ugh.
Yeah, but like, I mean, showering, like, you ever like been on the road and you're like, you have to wear the same underwear for 2 days?
Yeah.
Like, it's a crisis. And then like,
And they get warmer.
but, but when you're a teenager, you don't care.
That's fine. Yeah.
You don't care at all. But like, as an adult, it's also just like, the comfort level, like I used to be able to sleep on like a bag of rocks. And now if I don't have this one pillow in my arms, then a baby can't sleep. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Yeah, getting older is interesting. What we thought we looked like when we were younger is interesting. And it's amazing how much you can transpose or share with your children, but how many things you cannot share. It's amazing how many like lessons that we all go through, but we can't, there's no real clear way to share that to a kid so they don't have to deal with the tragedies of it.
Yeah, I mean, they have to. There's so many times when I'm talking to my kids where I'm like, I don't even know why I'm saying this, because it's like, you're not going to hear it from me.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go through it. It's like even when you're, like kids driving, like I'm sure when you were driving, there was moments where you're like, holy cow, I almost ran over that guy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not like your parents hadn't said, you got to make sure you look, but you don't hear that. It's just white noise.
Yeah, your parents are just, Your parents are creepy people that you can't even believe they had sex before.
Yeah, it's just gross to think. It's really rude how gross you think your parents having sex is, considering it's how you have it. You're like, I wonder if that's a factor in self-esteem. Like if people with really high self-esteem are like, the idea of my parents making love is a beautiful thing. Because it's just like, even your parents kissing, it was like, oh. Right?
Oh, it's horrible. I remember if my dad tried to kiss my mom would fucking kind of threaten him with the cake cutter.
That's good. She was a cake cutter. Why? Was there always cake? Like, did you have dessert growing up?
No, on birthdays we had cake.
Yeah.
And that's when they would have some champagne together.
Oh, really?
And my dad would inch over and try to get a kiss on her. And she would raise that fucking cake cutter. The one that had the prongs. It was like, it had the handle and then like that. And then a bunch of straight prongs. It looked like a comb almost.
It was kind of like a server and a cutter. It was a multi-purpose
thing.
Oh, wow.
That thing would take,
What is that?
That was for the cake.
Is that kind of like a Cajun thing? Because we didn't have cake cutters like that.
I don't know.
What's all the like the fingers going down?
I think you could probably play a song. I mean, who knows? I don't know. It could have had xylophone tendencies. I don't know what some of the backstory of it was.
Yeah, that harp. What happened to that harp? That harp was everywhere. No, the doing doing doing.
Oh, that little hand
What happened
harp?
to that? What happened to that harp?
I don't know. Yeah, what was that thing? Well, what happened to snuff, dude? What happened to a cute old lady in church taking a freaking hit of that tobacco powder to the dome?
Like the chewing tobacco thing. I did that. Did you do that?
I never did it.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I remember.
But snuff, did you do?
I did Copenhagen.
I mean the powder you would.
Oh
snort.
no, but I've tried that.
God,
I had tried that. So like that's just sniffing tobacco.
Yeah, that's got to
Right?
make a comeback.
I would think that would, right? Because that's probably a pretty interesting high. But I would think it's really bad for you. What if we got nicotine in our brain cavity? Because
Ricky ain't doing well. He's got a
so
quarter.
snuff. Oh, see, I thought that's the same container as chewing tobacco.
Right, that's long cut. Now that's an actual cut that you put into your lips. Snuff is more. There's dry snuff right there. If you click on that one down.
Yeah.
One down, right there.
Yeah.
There's dry snuff in that one. If you zoom in on that, Zach, and you can see that with that's just a beautiful dust right there.
The snuff. It's interesting because so Copenhagen, Kodiak, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they introduced the pouches, or maybe the pouches were always there and I never knew about them.
Yeah.
But those were all started in Scandinavia because it was cold outside and it was windy. So they had to, how they consumed tobacco was kind of chewing on it as opposed to where, they could light it.
Right, be easier.
If it was warmer out. You know what I mean?
Man, people will find a way to get tobacco. They need it, huh?
Right? A little nicotine buzz.
It just
It's
gets you
fun.
going. Well, it gets all your it'll make you go to the bathroom, it'll make you stay awake if you're driving. It'll kind of just get you through things you need to do.
My parents smoked constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly. And they died when they were 10, but they smoked constantly. And now no one really smokes.
Oh, smoking's crazy.
It's pretty rare to see someone smoke. I remember when they outlawed smoking in bars in New York City, I was like, well, that's not going to work. And now the craziest thing would be seeing someone smoke on the subway. You're like, not only are they breaking the rules, but they're smoking. That's just, but now kids do the
vaping.
And that's actually worse for you.
Right, but it's fun and it tastes good. And you can have all the flavors and it's you can have all the different flavors you want.
But kids' lungs are getting decimated because when you vape, you're inhaling oil as opposed to cigarette, you were just inhaling smoke. So, but it's brutal because it is so fun and it's portable, right?
It's portable. You can do it inside. You can do it outside. You see people on planes secretly taking a hit.
Yeah.
Getting gassed up. You see all types of people doing it.
I worked on a movie and this girl was
hammering it.
Yeah, just constantly. She was probably nervous, but
it makes you more nervous.
It does?
Oh, it increases your anxiety. If you have no anxiety, you hit that thing, 2 hits, all of a sudden you're anxious. You're scared. You're calling somebody. You'll text the cops. Hey, what's up? It creates anxiety.
So do you vape?
I have been a vapor. I'll be honest. I have been a vapor. I have vaped, and
it's addictive, right? You can't really get rid of it.
It's the most addictive thing ever.
You seem like you kind of were you always? Vaping hasn't always been around, but when vaping came out, you're like, this is my joint.
No, right? I thought it was something that gay men did, honestly, at first.
Oh, really?
I thought it was, but I was the same way about the iPhone. I was like, nobody's gonna,
Oh, that's so funny.
I was the same thing about twins. When I saw twins for the first time, I was like, this isn't gonna stick around.
I remember when email addresses, I had my email address, this is back when it was AOL, and it was my name. Mm-hmm. And I remember a friend of mine making fun of me, you have your name and your email address? This is going back. And I was like, yeah, so that way I can just tell people. And they're like, huh, okay. What are you, your own business? It was such, and like I remember Greg Giraldo making fun of me for having my website, jimgaffigan.com. He's like, "Why do you have a website?" And I was like, "Well, I think everyone is probably going to have a website." And he's like, "No."
Then he overdosed.
No, well, of course, eventually he got a website.
Right, that's what I meant.
But it was just like, it was one of those things. It was, and he was a great guy. But it was just seen as a little bit like unnecessary.
Right, like you're being a bit much here,
Yeah,
Jim.
like commercials they used to, like when they, at the end, they'd be like, visit Nabisco.com.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm getting paid by Nabisco. No, I'm not. But
yeah, it's crazy to think, first of all, that anybody's ever going to go to Nabisco.com.
right, it's like, well, I'm bored. I'm going to go to Nabisco, see what those Keebler elves are doing.
Yeah, see some BTS of the elves, dude.
Right?
Yeah, they're all on spring break.
Right?
Yeah. It's a smooth sack summer. People want to brandish up their balls and get them nice. That's what they want. And the leaders in below-the-waist grooming are making sure we all have a ball this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst in a smooth sack summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with our code Theo. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need to de-hair that body and get your body well. Get your ball bag trimmed up. Get your ears, your face. God, trim your belly, boy. Get well, homie. Their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. Get 20% off and free shipping with code Theo at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code Theo at manscaped.com. It's smooth sack summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. What was Greg Giraldo like? Did you ever get to spend time with him?
Oh yeah.
People love him.
I started with him.
Oh, really?
I met him at Cold Waters. There was an open mic there that you had to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you had to pay like $5 and you'd go up. And he and I both showed up. And we were both wearing suits. We had a coat and tie on. He was a lawyer.
He was a real lawyer?
He went to Harvard Law.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He went to Columbia on a scholarship, and I think he went to Harvard Law on a scholarship.
Oh, wow.
And he was working for the best law firm or one of the great ones in New York City. And so it was I can't remember, but it was just because this was probably 92, 93. Yeah. And it was, at those open, like stand-up is much more middle class now, but back then it was a lot of people that should just be in therapy. Yeah. It was a lot of people that I used to do those open mics but poetry open mics. There were poetry open mics, and you didn't have to pay for those. And those were just even more mentally ill people.
Oh, yeah.
But I love those people. Like there was the Bowery Poetry Club. There was just these really surf reality, just these characters, just these New York characters that were, and just like you weren't sure if they were homeless or if they were just kind of, but there were some real charactery people that were.
Oh yeah, you'd have somebody with a fern built into the side of their head, or you'd have
somebody would just go up and they would just pour blood on themselves.
Yeah, you'd have somebody with a pH balance of like 11,000 go up there. You would have. They would have. And then poetry was like it was almost like it was too soft, so it went the other way. It was slam poetry.
Yeah,
where you'd have somebody just like throw a javelin through a white guy up there for 2 minutes or something. It was just crazy.
And then occasionally somebody would like read, so people would read their own, because there was slam poetry,
Do
right?
you not hear my wings? And they would just fucking behead a white guy. You're like,
And then there would just be like, people would read excerpts from their novel,
oh, yeah.
and people would be like,
And they pass a gun around at the same time. That was the crazy part. That was the craziest thing, dude. It's like, I don't think we need this gun going around.
What, so like the Russian roulette, would you ever do that?
Ooh. I think on an 8-chamber I would. I wouldn't go on 6 though.
Really?
Do they make an 8-chamber pistol? I'm sure they probably do.
Like, do you have a gun in a drawer in your residence right now?
Yes.
Is it in a safe, or is it just kind of next to your nightstand?
It is accessible, I would say.
It's accessible.
Without a safe.
So if your girlfriend gets mouthy, you can take it out.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I could set it out next to the silverware. Okay. I could certainly set it next to the butter dish on the dinner table.
She comes home and you're just waving it. Where were you? And she's like, I was just out with some friends.
Dude, how crazy must the past have been?
I followed you on your Apple device. You weren't with your friends.
Yeah, you were at Dave and Buster's, huh?
Dave and Buster's. You know I got tokens.
Yeah. Who's Dave and Buster? You're fucking quizzing her.
Who are you fucking, Dave or Buster?
Yeah. You're out there with these motherfuckers.
These two men.
Who's Dave and Buster?
You know, is their food better than mine?
Yeah, tell me the truth.
Would you? Do you think you'd ever murder someone
Oh,
in a fit of rage?
Yeah.
You would,
Mhm.
right?
What about you?
Oh yeah, I think I probably could. I mean, not that I haven't already. No, but I would. I don't know.
What would you do with the body, though? That's the thing. Would you tell on yourself, or would you take a few minutes to decide if you want to tell on yourself?
I wouldn't tell on myself.
Yeah.
That's interesting, you know, because like people, you know, when someone murders someone, there's always kind of like people are like, and then they lied about it afterwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He killed his wife, and then he concocted this big. But of course, they're. What are they supposed to do? And be like, I am a man of honor. You know what I mean? It's like, of course, they're going to sit there and go and try and get out of it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, you know what? I'll take 50 years in jail. You know what I mean? It's, but it is like the,
Yeah.
there's killing someone, and then there's murder, though, right?
Right. I think there's a way to kill somebody probably humanely.
Yeah.
A little more humanely than murder. There has to be some middle ground in there.
Like, did you know of anyone that got murdered in your town?
I have a buddy who has killed somebody.
Yeah. And was he caught, or did you just kind of out him?
He was not caught.
He was not caught.
Nope.
And is it one of those things where you guys were having some beers and he just started crying, I killed Angela? Or did he tell you, he's like, I killed Bob?
No, it was one time we were doing drugs.
Yeah.
He said it. And I just knew that he had done it.
Wow.
Because I've had people all the time are like, I killed somebody. And you're like, fuck you, you know?
Yeah.
You haven't, you know?
Wow.
And they're like, you're right, I haven't, dude.
And what was the reason for them killing them?
I want to say it was like domestic dispute.
Really?
And it was gay men.
Wow. Wow.
But I think there's a lot of domestic disputes. And I think the tough thing about killing somebody, right, is how do you, say you kill somebody that, say if you asked 100 people,
Yeah.
99 of them are like, yeah, you can kill Ernie, right? You can kill Ernie. So you do it. But how do you hide that body? How do you,
Yeah.
and where do you do it? And then how, I would feel honestly like I owed something to their family. So I would have to go and live next door to the family and be helpful to them or something for the rest of my life, I feel like. Without, and I'd be like, oh, damn, I sure miss Ernie,
Yeah.
And say, it'd be fucked up, but I would have to do
But
it.
they would eventually forgive you, and they'd be like, oh,
No, but they didn't know you did
You'd
it.
make love to Ernie's wife. What if that happened? Is Ernie married?
I think he is. And I think, at that point you get in, you assume the whole role of the family and you just take over. And maybe you rebuild his life back to a level he could have never
Right.
built it to.
And you
Wow.
change your name to Ernie. Well, what about like getting rid of a body? Like, you ever notice that, like, like I garden. I like gardening. I know that it's I don't want to brag, but I garden.
Yeah.
But I like digging a hole. Like, some soil is easy to move, but some's like, if it's clay, if you're trying to get rid of a body in clay,
You're an idiot.
you're no, but like you're like digging and you're like, you know what? It's not going to be 6 feet. Then you're just like, you're like pile of leaves. You're like, you can't go deep enough. It's
You're
just like, if it's really rocky soil, you're like, these rocks, I keep running into rocks.
Yeah, I don't think this grave isn't going to be a sedan. It's going to be more of a 2-seater. We're going to go just like, this will be just a hatchback, this grave. Yeah. And then the grave's just 1.5 feet.
You're like, all right, I'm just going to chop off the head. I'm going to bury the head here.
You have to bury the guy with his head to the side.
And then
so it
you're like,
takes less space.
and then you go to the store and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy all those chemicals where you kind of like Dexter melted bodies. And you buy the chemicals and you're like, and you throw the body in there and it doesn't work. And you're like, shit. And then you look and you're like, oh, this chemical is not right. So then you got to dump out the body. And then you take the body and you throw it in a dumpster and you're like, and then you're about to fall asleep and you're like, you know what, that dumpster, they're going to find that dumpster. Because you see a guy walking in the background and kind of like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm not dumping a body. Right? That could happen.
Oh, it would be so hard. Except some people get the hang of it, and I think once you unlock that code of how to get rid of a body, it's got to be
Right.
I mean, yeah, it has to be like when you like Club 54 or whatever. I mean, you're just having a blast then.
Yeah, it's
you're just
weird.
getting rid of people.
So people get that's how they get off, though, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people. There's a lot of killers out there, and women like the shows. I mean, that's one of the problems you've seen with society is during COVID-19, all the Dateline episodes got watched up. Right?
Yeah.
People watched every murder episode. These channels started repackaging the same murders. People were like, no, I know I've seen this murder. You're just trying to trick me, you know?
It's really sad. Also, then they started encouraging people to murder. They're like, we need some content.
Oh, they have to.
And Netflix started paying people to murder.
Would you be surprised though?
No. If there were like, if there was like a list. All right, so I got to date her for 2 weeks. Then I have to be angry. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to be on meth. So it's like all these variables to make a complex, interesting Dateline. You'd have to do all that, but like it would be worth it because you'd get paid great.
Well, I think I could totally see if we get into a circle where networks, which are some of these big businesses, are paying, especially networks are paying, I'll pay $100,000 for some guy to go on a killing spree, low key, through some other channel, so it never traces back to me. I get to make a documentary about it. That documentary is going to make me $500,000, so why wouldn't I just keep doing that?
Right. By the way, there is a movie called Man Bites Dog, which is great. I think I don't know what language it's in, but before I had kids and before I was married, I used to watch all these indie films, and it's amazing. And it's about this documentary crew that's following this serial killer. And then they start joining in. Like, it's just how it's kind of contagious.
Yeah.
And how it's like, so like they're like partying with the serial killer, and then eventually they get wasted, and then it's really dark, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I could see I think you get kind of accustomed to anything, you know? I remember I stayed with a friend one time and they were playing volleyball every day, and the first day I was like, I don't want to play any volleyball. I don't like it. And the second day I got out there, and the third day I was the first person on the court.
And before you knew it, you were Gabrielle Reese.
Yeah.
Is she a volleyball player? I think
Yeah,
she was.
Gabby Reese.
Gabby Reese.
Yeah,
right?
she married Laird Hamilton, didn't she?
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we should find out.
so.
I thought she was married to.
Yeah.
No, she's married to somebody else. Is she married? Who is she
No,
married
I think
to?
that's Laird.
Laird.
I think her husband is Laird.
Oh, all right. Who's married to Richard Marx? I guess she's not.
Richard Marx.
Because Gabrielle Reese, she was on MTV too, right?
No, I don't know if she was. Richard Marx. I don't know who Richard Marx is.
He's married to somebody.
She was a volleyball player, right?
Richard Marx is married to who?
Who is his wife? Daisy Fuentes.
Daisy Fuentes. She
Oh,
was.
remember? She was hot, dude.
Richard Marx is not that old.
No. I didn't know who he was, but he
Daisy
looks like Chris Isaac.
He wrote all the. You don't even know who he is, do you? See, you're too young.
The Marx Brothers I've heard of.
No, he wrote a bunch of songs, and then he wrote all these songs for like the Backstreet Boys or something like that.
God, that'd be nice. You have another skill, man. I mean, I saw your movie, probably since we've last talked. I saw your movie. I think I even sent you a message about it. The one where you're the driver.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Dude,
American
it was
Dreamer.
really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was fun. I love acting. It's so fun.
You
It's
crushed it, man.
Oh, thanks.
it was
well,
really
it's fun.
good.
I
How much
think-
was it? How much did it cost to make that?
They did that. I know they did it for maybe $250. Wow. And
You did a great job for that.
oh, thanks. And it was when we were shooting that, there's a car explosion. And we shot that in like, I don't know, 12 days.
Wow.
And when the car explosion kind of happened, we had to shoot other things. And we kind of tried to get the car out. And I remember us driving to the other location, and the car was kind of still on fire. It was like a fire truck. I mean, it wasn't, believe me, it wasn't one of those things where we caused any damage to anything, but it was, I mean, it was this guy who was this great director, and Derek Bort, and he lives in Virginia Beach, and he had a buddy who had a car dealership, and he's like, can I have two of the same cars? Because we needed two cars. So anyway, but I remember there was a car that was on fire, and I was like, are we leaving that here? And they're like, it's fine. Because we had to shoot. We had to get done with this shoot.
Dude, it's America's changed. You can leave a burning car anywhere now, I feel like.
Yeah,
It's just,
well, there's parts of, but I think there's parts of Virginia, not Virginia Beach, that's very nice, but like Norfolk. And Norfolk's nice, but there's parts that was like, whoa.
gets a little,
gets
peligroso.
dicey.
Gets
Yeah.
a little dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, there's some big cities they've gotten even like Minneapolis is like deserted, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, it's sad.
When I go there, I'm like they drew all kind of murals. Like there's more drawings of people in Minneapolis than there are people anymore.
I love Minneapolis too.
Yeah, you
And
take your
it's-
special there. I think we were taking it at
Yeah.
the same time down the street.
Oh yeah,
Or I was
and
performing.
we
couldn't see each other.
We couldn't see each other because of the COVID restrictions. Netflix didn't allow anyone in to this was also this, and I have a new one now.
Right. That's what.
Yeah,
You have a new one coming out. It's your 10th one.
I know.
that right?
Isn't that crazy?
That's
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah, I mean, but it's it's all self-assignment, right? And so
Like, what do you mean by that when you say that?
well, it's like, when you did your last special, you're like, I'm going to do this special, and you kind of set your mind to it and you do it. But like I think the craziest thing is like when I did my first special, it was the expectation was that people would maybe do one or two, or maybe, like Carlin did a bunch, but it was not what it is now, which is where, and it might change, where people every couple of years put out a special. I don't think, and that might change, but like, I mean, here we are on a podcast. I mean, this didn't exist in its present form 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like people consume, like there's pressure for you to do episodes because people, they're kind of like, all right, I need another hit, right?
Yeah, it's really kind of scary. I think sometimes you're like, you become a dealer in a way,
Yeah.
I mean, you become an entertainer and you look forward to having the chats with people. You also start to realize that people in our business and in different businesses are so busy that sometimes this is the realest chat you're going to get with them.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that recently. Like I went, where did I go? I went to do a podcast and I was like, man, and my friend he's just a busy guy. And I was like, man, I wish I'd have utilized that time a little bit more with him just to really be like, oh, this is our time to connect. It's just, that's how, if you spend a couple hours with somebody, it's a lot of time. So,
yeah, it is. I'm jealous of, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to start my own podcast, but I am jealous of, because, comedians, you get some success. You never get to hang out with people. Do you know what I mean? The more successful you are, the more and if you have other aspects of your life, you're not going to get the quality one-on-one time that you would normally get. And just for comedians, this is kind of our oxygen, is talking to other comedians.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think it probably used to be different. You guys would hang out together more. Was there more of that? I think all of that happens too when you're coming up as well.
Yeah, and I think there was also there wasn't the touring and doing theaters, and which is great and I love, but it was, or, if you were doing comedy clubs, there was, 3 or 4 people and you'd be there for multiple nights and you knew some of the wait staff, and there was, you had more of, there was more of a communal experience, but it's all shifting constantly. And that's
true too. It changes constantly. And it's scary to know if the next shift, if you will apply to it.
Right.
That feels very scary a lot of times. If the next curve, if whatever you're doing will have an ability to kind of like flourish in that space.
But I think that, I mean, we talked a little bit about this beforehand, before we even start. I think authenticity is what people crave.
Yeah.
And so there are things that are shiny and trendy and fancy, but I think that if it's authenticity and it kind of can adjust to the times, it's kind of timeless, right?
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, I think you want,
You know what I mean? It's like there's always going to be people that come from similar backgrounds to that we have.
Yeah.
Not that I know anything about you. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like there's, but I don't know. I think that, comedians, that's kind of a litmus test among our peers, is to retain that authentic. That's not to say that there isn't some fun and there isn't some pretending and there isn't, exaggeration. But, it's also like, I think when comedians buy their own hype, even when, like when we were joking around, even like when comedians think they are good looking, that's kind of the kiss of death, right? When they're like, well, I am a philosopher.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you have to be self-aware.
Yeah, it's scary. It's kind of scary because also people start telling you stuff, and you have to be careful not really to believe them. You have to just kind of know what your lane is. You have to stay out of your ego. The ego is really scary.
It is scary.
The ego is really, really scary, especially I think for guys who came from low self-worth, and then here's this false sense of self-worth, right? Or here's this inflated, it's like this, it's like clothing. It's like this clothing. It's like, oh, look at me, look at what you can do. But the inside of you, it doesn't really, it's not the reality. So man, that's been something scary for me, is like, trying not to hear certain things or just trying to keep my ego at bay.
I think it's ego, but I think it's also for me, it's getting caught up in other people's expectations, which is, it's not like a problem that you solve once. It's like the fact that your podcast is independent, which is not good or bad, right or wrong, or anything like that, is like the expectation of where what you're supposed to do with things is usually, and it's changing, but like I guess what I'm saying is like the fact that Rogan, everyone was like, oh, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to start your own podcast company, da da da. He kind of didn't get caught up in that, and then ended up doing that Spotify deal. And it's and I think comedians have a tendency to kind of go their own path, but for me, when I sit there and I go, oh, I should do this, that's what everyone else is doing, that's when I really mess up. Or it's like, oh, there's that's a nice dollar sign,
Right.
My agent said that's good money. That's when you get in trouble.
Yeah.
Is other people's expectations rather than anyway.
No, that's a great point. What do you think? What do you think is how do we kind of, or what things come into play there when we're trying to figure that out? Because I'll have things like that come across, and it's like, hey, man, this looks great. This is so many thousands of dollars. I'm like, dang, that looks great. But then it's like trying to trust whatever your instinct is, or know what your instinct is. That's really hard sometimes.
Right.
To know, like, is this an instinct or is this a fear? Is this like an instinct telling me yes, or is that my ego telling me yes? Like, it starts to get weird to fucking figure those, who's at the front pointing at that moment, what part of you.
I think it's like, I think the ego is very impulsive, right? So it's like maybe taking time and, it sounds corny, the pros and the cons, that helps a lot. You know what I mean? And also, you've got this successful podcast, but like also you have friends, and you can, it's just kind of like, like your unique sensibility is not something that someone could tell you how to come up with. You know what I mean? It's like that was on you, but I think input from
mentors, people you
but I think also tempered. You know what I mean? Like it's like kind of take all the advice and cut it in half. Like even when people like badmouth someone, I usually typically cut it in half, and so that's why, like, if I really hate someone, I'm like, I already cut it in half, and I hate you. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right,
half the hate,
half
right
the
now.
bad shit you did.
What when you and Geraldo were coming up, did he start off doing better than you? You guys were both doing well at the same time. Was there competition there? Like, what kind of that's so crazy. He was so smart, huh?
He was super smart, and he was also, everyone liked him.
Yeah,
and he would help me get in because he grew up in Queens. He would help me get into clubs on Long Island. I was like this white bread guy, and like on Long Island, they're like, "Who's this dork?"
Yeah, who's this milkman?
Yeah, and so, but he would help me. But yeah, no, he had a lot of success, and I was jealous, and I told him that I was jealous, and but it's weird because it's not just about the success. I think it's like how we all process the failures. Like I almost feel like the advantage I had was that I had failed in a lot of things, whereas like people that were really successful in everything, they didn't have kind of the appetite for it, or the
aptitude even for failure. You have to have some fucking
and like some people that are allergic to cilantro, they're like, it tastes like soap. It's like, and so like failure, you have to have it's like
be tempered by it a little.
Yeah, you have to have the calluses to deal with some of it, if that makes sense.
No, I think it makes a ton of sense, man. That's fascinating. I wish I knew more about him. I always hear neat things about him.
Yeah. His son's doing stand-up.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm supposed to out that, but
no, good for him.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Man, I always wonder what it feels like. I wonder if somebody's like, imagine having a father that was extremely famous, right?
Yeah.
Like, say your father was. I'm trying to think of somebody who's really, really famous. Who can we think of? Pierce Brosnan or Carol O'Connor, or who else has a kid?
Well, like the Quaid.
That Quaid family. They're
Quaid
interesting.
family.
Yeah, I interviewed Dennis. I want to interview the brother too, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, you should totally interview.
I want to interview Randy. Randy, if you're out there, would love to sit down and chat with you sometime, man.
Well,
but their son Jack,
because the son Jack,
extremely talented and an amazing guy. I got to interview him years ago, and he was Jack is a neat
do you live in Nashville?
Yeah,
and because I did this show Full Circle with Dennis. And he lives in Nashville.
Well, Jesus. Oh, yeah, Dennis lives there.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking Dennis' brother, Randy.
Yeah, but like they might, he might go to visit his brother.
Yeah. Yeah, Dennis lives over there. I saw his picture in a magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Randy.
Yeah, that's a serious beard. That's a beard that's,
That's when your face is like, hey, I'm going to live off the grid.
That's kind of like, you're not going to tell me what I should do with my beard at all.
Yeah, because I'm not even going to be able to hear you. That's why.
There's some really interesting videos of him and his wife, right?
I haven't seen. Is it like sex stuff?
No, it's just he's
he's kind of out there.
He's got,
he's pretty strong right-wing views. Is that right? Is that a safe way to say it? Kind of?
I think so. And he and his wife, it was really interesting because they were on a park bench and they were getting ready to drink, I think, some champagne or something like that. No, on this video.
Oh, on the video.
But they were, I think it was all about, it was like about Biden and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they get pretty political.
Yeah.
But Randy is an iconic character. Yeah. His Cousin Eddie character was iconic.
Yeah.
God, isn't that wild how that's just...
And then the son's a huge star now.
Yeah, the son is maybe a bigger star than even both of them were. I mean, they've all obviously have a lot of talent in their family. Dude, what about... I love dessert. Don't you like it?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I had yesterday, bro? Baklava, dude.
Really?
God, man. I didn't even know what was going on, and then I had it. And I was like, wow, they really did it good. You had it?
No, it's great. You know what I had yesterday? I was on a plane, and it was before the plane. Have you ever had olive oil cake? It was amazing.
Really?
It was amazing.
Oh.
But baklava, where'd you have it?
I had it from some Mediterraneans,
Yeah.
A couple of Mediterraneans brought it by, and God, it was just so good.
Right.
What's on it? Bring up a chunk of baklava, dude. Let me even see it. Because, at the end of the night, I either want to fucking do something horrible to myself or have like a
sweet
dessert. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So that's like.
God, look at the layers on that. I mean, that's almost like something a geologist would cut out of the earth.
Well, that's just how many layers of, and I think similar to croissants, it's like each one of those layers gets a bunch of butter on it.
Oh.
Greek food is really underrated.
Oh.
It's really underrated.
God, I love, some of the pastries, they look so gentle. You don't even.
Yeah.
You're like, do we eat this?
Yeah, it's baklava is it's packed with sugar too. It's just I think it's like it's really dense. I feel like there's different eras of sugar. Like, cuz like rock candy, they used to eat rock candy.
My mother loves it.
Rock candy. And then and
it was sugar on a little wooden pole.
Right?
A chunk of sugar.
By the way, you ever had straight sugar cane? That's great. Like you just get a hunk. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not bad for you.
Wow, because it's not processed.
Yeah.
That processing really does a number, and it does a number on our
Right.
bodies too.
Yeah.
But sugarcane, that stuff is so sweet, it's unreal.
So, here's the thing that I thought was, so I did this movie, Peter Pan, where I played a pirate. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole learning about pirates. And so when sugar became this big thing, that's where, so like sugar, people started putting sugar in their tea and their coffee, and they put sugar in everything. People love sugar, and it destroyed people's teeth. And so like prior to that, people's teeth were fine, but like once sugar happened, it devastated people's teeth. Here's another interesting thing that I thought was really wild, is that like the coffee break was created so that people would drink coffee, because when people drink coffee, they're more efficient at work. So they wanted people to drink coffee. I don't know if you drink coffee at all.
Yeah, I like having
But
some.
like, it's like you can kind of focus, and you can kind of, I mean, it also keeps you regular, but like you can focus. So like they wanted people to drink coffee.
Yeah, I mean, some people. There were women that would get rid of, if they didn't have coffee, they would get rid of their children. They couldn't handle it. They need, it's part of their day. It's people.
Yeah.
It's a staple in American dayhood.
And my daughter, who's 14, I think all my kids love it, but like they love Starbucks. They love Starbucks. Like how I loved McDonald's or Wendy's. They're all about the cake pop. They're all about that sugary, those shakes. They're essentially just shakes that they're getting, but it's a social atmosphere going to Starbucks.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a rite of passage. It's like now you're part of your day.
Yeah.
It's like the morning paper almost in a way.
Yes, it's fancy. It's kind of adult pretending.
Yes, that's very true. I'm here to get they have your name written down.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, I'm here for my coffee that I reserved.
Kids love it.
Yeah.
They love it. And those cake pops are it's just a ripoff. It's just a dot of a cookie.
Oh, it's nothing. I can't believe that's anything. Bring that up. That cake pop.
Right?
And it's just fucking, and it's got to be as a bigger guy sees you eating that. He's like, what are you doing?
Right? You know what I mean?
Doing, huh? Who do you love?
You know what's amazing
Who do you
is,
love?
did you know that those cake pops, they grow them on trees?
Mm-mm.
Isn't that weird?
Oh, yeah.
There's
Oh.
different trees. There's like strawberry cake trees, and there's
And it's
chocolate
just
cake
the way
trees.
that they do it.
Yeah, they just grow like that.
Dude.
They do add the sprinkles later. Those aren't natural.
Well, you know what'll drive you? Did you know sugar, most of our sugar comes from beets?
What?
Yep. Look up Nampa. Nampa, Idaho.
By the way, beets
Nampa, dude.
Beets are a very underrated vegetable.
And they're making a comeback. Radishes are making a comeback.
Radishes are making a comeback.
Aren't they? Radishes
They are. By the way, I grow radishes in my garden. Takes like 20 days. Easiest thing to grow.
So easy.
Easiest thing to grow.
And you can never decide if they taste good or not, but you eat 'em.
Right. It's because, and I put them in a salad, and my kids are like, "Ow, did you put jalapenos in here?" I'm like, "Those are radishes," because my kids are that white.
They're white. Yeah, those are white jalapenos, dude. That's hilarious. What do we have there? We have Nampa sugar. Let's look it up. I'm going to be honest with you here. A lot of our sugar in America comes from beets, and that's over in Nampa.
That's insane.
Yeah, I guess there is a big company called Amalgamated Sugars that's based in Nampa, and
The Nampa factory processes 12,000 tons of sugar beets. Sorry, that's what they are. And granulates 1,000 tons of sugar per day. Wow, that's a lot. In addition to processing sugar beets into sugar and molasses, the Nampa factory produces animal feed products such as pulp and betaine.
So wait a minute. I'm kind of. What does a sugar beet mean?
I'm not sure. Can we
Is
see
that
one?
like a sugar stalk? Sugar cane? Is that another thing?
There you go.
What?
yeah, sugar cane's different.
That's it.
Oh my God! I never knew that.
Let's look at a sugar
I never
beet.
knew that.
Really?
Wait a minute. I always thought. I thought sugar cane was where all sugar came from.
Brother, we all did.
I thought it was. From Cuba and Puerto Rico.
Oh,
and,
yeah, homie, we got the sugar.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, huh?
And that's why there's Bacardi there. And
Can we look at sugar beets, the wiki of it or something?
so wait a minute.
And Nampa, or Viet Nampa, as they call it, because I think there's a lot of issues out there. A sugar beet is a plant whose root contains a high concentration of sucrose and which is grown commercially for sugar production.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sugar beets are grown in climates that are too cold for sugar cane. Oh, that's interesting. In Russia, in 2020, Russia, the United States, Germany, France, and Turkey were the world's 5 largest sugar beet producers.
I mean, you ever occasionally just hear about an animal that's never, and you, I was working on this movie and this woman was like, because we have a place in, thank you, in upstate New York, and she's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of blah, blah, blah. Like she was like, some type of cat. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, you've never heard of that? It's like, it was just, it's some kind of common wild,
And you didn't know it existed.
I didn't
love
know
that.
existed.
Blows your mind.
Right?
Yeah.
You're like, how could I miss out on some of it? She was like, it's the equivalent of like a mountain lion. I'm like, what? I'm like,
Yeah, like what have I been doing?
how could I not know that? How about the fact that bears used to be everywhere?
Mm-hmm.
Bears were everywhere. Bears and wolves were everywhere.
Oh, I would be. Imagine you're like, hey, I'm going to go take a walk. And people are like, I don't know if I would.
Right? Yeah.
And you're like, fuck you, I will. And then you die.
Yeah. Well, I think in China, people used to get eaten by tigers all the time.
Yeah.
I think in China and India, you would just get eaten by a tiger.
Oh, I would hate
crazy.
that. And imagine if they start eating you, you know you can't get away. What do you do then while it's eating you? Like say it's got your leg going down it, right? And the pain is the pain, your adrenaline will take over.
Yeah.
So you're just horrified.
You'd
What do you
probably
do?
have like a weapon. You'd have a knife on you, right? You'd just be like, if I'm going down, you're going down with me, right?
What if you don't have that? You just pet it, you think? I think I'll try to put it to sleep. If it falls asleep,
You'd pet it and just be like, oh, it's such a cute kitty. And the cat would be like, "Mm." Like maybe underneath the belly, and they're like, oh, right? They're like, grrr.
Hush, little baby. Don't say a word. Dude, remember nursery rhymes? People would always sing those to babies. And now people are like, shut the fuck up, kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Nursery rhymes.
Hush.
And a lot of them are really kind of dark, right? Like Ring Around the Rosie, that's about like the plague. And I think
was it Ring Around the Rosy about the plague?
I think it was. It's crazy.
Were your who took care of you when you were a kid?
I lived by myself. No, I was the youngest of 6 kids. I mean, it was definitely.
So you were there was nothing left in the parental tank for you, probably.
No, not really. That's interesting because some people usually say, "Oh, you were spoiled," but like there was a burnout effect. You know what
number
I mean?
4 was spoiled, dude. You were.
Yeah, and there was just so like they were highly suspicious of everything I had done. Yeah, but it was also I think it was an era where kids were kind of, they would be like, get out of the house, see you at 8, you know what I mean? Or see you at dinner. But during the summer, like we would camp out. Like I can't imagine my kids just camping out, but we used to do that. We used to just, all right, we're going to build a fire. And he'd just wake up at 3 a.m, freezing.
Yeah.
You'd run home, covered in bug bites. You're like, why'd we do that? And then 2 weeks later, you're like, should we do that again? Yeah. Right?
You said you lived in upstate New York. Do you live by Louis?
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
I think he lives up there somewhere.
Yeah. I'm in like Westchester.
Oh, sweet. I don't know where that is, but.
So, yeah. So how many episodes of your podcast have you had?
450, I think.
Wow.
452.
452. And this is our last episode in this studio, actually.
Now, if I did, so I was on it in 2018, 19. Was it here?
No. It was at a different studio that was closer by towards the airport.
And so how do you set, did you design this or did someone else?
No, let me think. A lot of like listeners and stuff have sent things in that were really cool. There's a picture of Brody Stevens somebody sent. A lot of neat things. We have a whole deck of cards that somebody drew all these faces on different cards from all of our guests that came on. There's one of you in here too. Somebody made individual cards.
Oh, that's amazing.
This is truly amazing that somebody did all those. And then I think we just kind of put it together. I don't know if we've always had the best design aesthetic, but
what was the most awkward? Was there one where you're like, this feels like work, or was there one where
an episode
this person's wasted?
Jesse Ventura.
Oh, really?
The Baja. Yeah, down in the Baja.
Now, were you down there when you did it?
And I'll tell you why. You want to know why? I'm not good at it, but.
And he, so he was the governor of Minnesota.
Yeah, dude, he's the governor of.
But he's kind of, do you think he's got CTE?
Oh, I think he's the mayor of dementia now.
Oh. And was there hostility?
Not a chance. He's like, I'm going to leave in 30 minutes. Let me tell you something for 2.5 hours. Wow. And he just talked the whole time. I felt, I shouldn't rip him so much. It was just, it got to be insufferable kind of. I think.
What was your connection? Was he promoting a book? Was he, I
think he was in like a motorcycle gang or something, but I think I was just excited to talk to him, and just intrigued by him. He had a unique life. To get to go to be a professional wrestler, to be he was an aqua marine. I'm not sure what it's called.
SEAL?
Yeah, he was a Navy SEAL, but they do a lot of they go in first and will set check out the premises before maybe the Marines come and land. I can't remember what the group is called, but yeah, a lot of underwater. So it's underwater. UBUD. I don't know.
Did he play in the NFL? I feel like he played in the NFL.
Know. That'd be interesting. I don't remember if he did. But so that was just kind of a tough one, And then I think on different days, some of them are different. Some days I wish I knew more when I was talking to people. And some days I wish that I was in a better energy or attitude, Has it been hard being a parent and being a famous person? Has that been kind of tricky?
It is weird. Because, you don't really think of yourself as, having any level of fame. Right. There's moments where you're like, oh, this is sweet. I get to get a restaurant. I can go in a restaurant. But so there is moments where my son at one point when I was picking him up from soccer camp or something was like, the coach was kind of a jerk saying, oh, you're the funny guy, you're the funny guy's kid, you know what I mean? So that's weird, but I don't know. It's strange because there is it's weird because my dad was a small town banker, so there's nothing to prepare you for it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, totally. And how could you know how to prepare for it?
Yeah.
And especially it doesn't see it. A lot of times you don't feel like you're popular. You don't feel it's like you walk around thinking, oh, I'm up. It's like you're just kind of living your life, and then there's this other realm that's kind of going on that flares up every now and then when you're in certain instances.
Yeah, and or if you're, if we're eating dinner with, not that we eat out really that often, but if we're eating out and someone's comes up, that's weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't mind it if I'm alone or if I'm after a show and I'm in a restaurant. But if I'm with my family, it's a little weird.
Yeah, because you have to take a break from that moment and then step out, and then it's like the center of attention is you.
Then I have to act like I'm nice.
Right. Yeah.
In front of my kids. And I don't like my kids seeing me be kind.
Yeah, I always wonder what what the effects of that are. Like, what are the residual effects that you don't even realize, or that any popular parent doesn't even realize, that a kid then, how it affects their life. And then sometimes I was thinking, like, imagine if your dad was like extremely famous. Your dad was like Napoleon Bonaparte, or if your dad was like Michael Jordan, how would you ever make your dad feel like he means as much to you as he does to like just some stranger I wonder if there would always be some weird hang-ups, if you were that level of popularity. It'd have to be really interesting.
Yeah. I think Napoleon's son even I think he ruled France too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that like there was, I don't know. I want to see that Napoleon movie coming out.
Is there a new one?
Yeah.
Did you see Mel Gibson's new movie yet?
Which one's that?
It's a documentary. It's called The Sound of Freedom.
Oh, wait.
It's not
That's a documentary?
It's a real film.
That's Jim Caviezel? Right?
It's called The Sound of Freedom. It's the incredible story of a former government agent turned vigilante who embarks on a dangerous mission to rescue hundreds of children from sex trafficking.
Yeah, that's Jim Caviezel, right?
Supposed to be interesting. I need to go see this.
Is that Mira Sorvino?
Ooh.
And Bill Camp.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. I think that's like the #1 movie.
That's wild.
I gotta pee.
You do?
Yeah, I always have to pee. I had to pee before I even came in here.
Yeah, go pee and we'll do another 20 minutes. What are you quitting smoking?
No, I'm addicted to this.
You're addicted to nicotine gum?
Yeah.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, you're right. Oh, if they had cocaine the gum?
I'm sure they probably have some. I'm surprised that's not like at some store. Oh yeah, cocaine gum, it's good for you. Because you'd have a buddy. It's not addictive because you're chewing it.
Yeah. It's not addictive if you cheer for the Mets.
No, it's good. It's good for your jawline too. You get the cocaine gum, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than regular cocaine too.
Oh, yeah. My cousin, he had half of his throat taken
There's
out.
cocaine chewing gum.
Yeah, that was the thing in the Old West was cocaine gum.
Wow. Fuck yeah, dude. Now I would go through it. Yeah, I'd ride off into the heat, dude, if I was on cocaine gum. Look how they used to spell it too, with no E on that little jar. Cocaine.
But
boy. Did you used to party with it some ever?
With cocaine?
Yeah.
I've done it, but
Yeah, me too.
You were like, yeah, me too.
Oh, dude, it's right. Oh,
You know
when
what,
I think about it, sometimes I think about us meeting up in like like having a eloping. I'll literally think about that, like me riding off in a carriage in the night with an 8-ball just holding on to me from behind.
That's one of the influences of having kids is like it kind of removes some of the stupidity stuff from you. Like you're like, man, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, you can't do it anymore.
Well, it's like a baby is born and you look at the baby and your first thought is, well, that takes suicide off the table. You know what I mean? It's a really dark thing, but it kind of is true. Yeah. You're like, and now you're like, I can't do that,
Yeah.
But
there goes gymnastics.
You're like, all right, I guess I can't be a hobo anymore. Do you know what I mean? So
there is things like that in your life that start to disappear. Like there's like years where you're watching football and you're like, yeah, one day I'll get back out there and play. Even if you never played, you're like, one of these days I'll be back out there,
Yeah.
They'll miss me. Somebody will they'll need a free agent,
Yeah.
Or they'll do a strike and they'll have tryouts.
They'll need a long snapper. Is there anyone here in the stadium? I could do long snapping. I did that in high school.
And then even those ideas start to they don't show up anymore.
Then there's just not a chance. Well, there is like the Olympic dreams die.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, well, that's like also when quarterbacks are retiring and they're like 20 years younger than you, you're like, so Tom Brady's that old? He's only 45? You're like, oh, I guess I am old.
Yeah. Yeah, you've done a lot of acting with this many specials. Do you think about slowing it down? What do you think? Do you start to has your view or your vantage point got different? I don't know if anybody has as many specials as you. I mean, you might be the most prolific.
Well, it is weird. I think it's like, I think we're all kind of reevaluating what we're doing all the time, but some of it I think was motivated by when I tour, I definitely want the audience to see a new show. And then there is such a sense of completion in finishing the hour. And then, I don't know, I feel like with stand-up, I'm getting better. You know, like there's, all right, I'll be like, all right, I want to tell some stories. All right, now I want to talk about, I don't want to talk about food at all, which was like another hurdle of mine. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to talk, my wife had a brain tumor. I'm going to talk about the brain tumor. And then, all right, I could just talk about my kids constantly, but I'm like, I'm not going to just, because I was like that 26-year-old guy sitting in a comedy club hearing people talk about their kids. And I was like, I can't even get a date. So, you know what I mean? So there's the assignment of it. But yeah, I don't know. There is something of, because in the weird way, we're doing it for ourselves, right? And so when you get off stage and people are like, thank you so much, you're like, I was just doing that for myself. You know, it was like, I had fun. You know, it's like, you know, there used to be this saying, like, doing colleges, you're not paid for the show. You're paid because it's so hard to get to them. You know what I mean?
Oh, that was always the worst.
Yeah. And so, but to answer your question, I do feel like, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, definitely, you know, taking some time, but it's the creative fulfillment. That's the buzz.
Huge. Well, that's
and I think that people that have podcasts get that buzz. And you know, it's and I enjoy acting and I get it there, but like acting's so it's so erratic on when you can do it. So
yeah, there's definitely like I think a fulfillment aspect for people. Like you get to the end of a chapter in your life, you don't want to, you challenge yourself. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I want to try something new. You also feel yourself evolving. You know, that's something I feel in my own life sometimes now. For like some of the first time in probably forever, I've started to feel like, oh man, I'm evolving a little bit. I want to start thinking in different patterns and talking about stuff that maybe is more thoughtful to me. Yeah. But then sometimes it's like you don't want to get too crazy and you want to make sure that people are just having fun, you know? Absolutely. It's like you don't want to turn into some like, you know, guy who's just like preaching, you know? Yeah. So that can be kind of tough a little bit sometimes to manage.
And I think comedians, I think people are always so surprised at how sincere comedians are. That's not to say that we don't joke around and have fun, but we have to keep a balance on that sincerity, because if we get too sincere, then we might as well just be a preacher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Then we're like, you know, the way we should go, you know, it's like we might as well just be preaching, you know?
Did you see that little kid, that Pentecostal kid recently? They had a kid who was speaking in tongues. He was a young preacher.
Now, growing up, did you go to church?
We would sometimes. My dad would take us over there. I mean, my dad was so old when I was a child, and so he would walk over there to church, and he'd fall asleep. He'd fall asleep wherever we were.
Yeah.
And so when I got there, I was kind of on my own wherever we went. You know, my dad was like, I'll introduce you to people. We'd sit down for a second till he could take a break, and then he'd be fucking dead asleep. Wow. So then I would just be kind of like in these places, and I had this sleeping father that felt uncomfortable. And then I was there and had to kind of like navigate some situations. That kind of stuff would happen a lot with my dad.
And what kind of church was it? Was it
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian?
Yeah. They had 3 nice oak trees, I remember. And they tried to do an insurance fire once or twice, but it didn't take. And great breakfast over there, though.
Right.
God. Nothing will bring you home, nothing will bring you to the Lord like a dang. One of those donuts with pink frosting and
Well,
fried
I just
egg.
think of like different churches. Like you remember, like we went to this church in Maryland that just amazing. You go and get pizza and donuts. And, you're like, you're usually a little hungover on Sunday. And you're like, this is sweet. A little kick from that lemonade. You're like, this is perfect.
Yeah, God knows what I need.
But
Yeah, church was fun. I thought the funnest thing about church was just kids playing and stuff like a social environment.
Yeah.
And it used to be that was the place you saw anybody. They didn't have all this other stuff. You had to, fight off yellow fever all week and dysentery and get everybody's butts clean and everything, and then wagging them up to church. And that's where you'd see somebody and hope somebody would, with a little bit of money, would make love to your daughter, or that's where it happened. It all happened right there on the.
And it's like. There is something strange about, because also I spent my 20s and, my 30s very much opposed to it. And then I married this woman that is Catholic. And I mean, I was raised Catholic, but kind of culturally. But there is something about, there's a quietness there that, there's something meditative about it. And maybe because it's so boring, but there is something about like, I'm just standing there with my kids. I'm just sitting there with my kids. It's like the world slows down. Like you see why people go and why they have a connection to it.
Yeah, I love faith. I feel like I have a good faith. I like being able to close my eyes and I like to pray twice a day. I like to be able to think about God and talk or my God and ask him, what I can do for others and just things like that. Or if I need help, to offer me some suggestion. I love that kind of stuff. One of the best times I ever had in my life, or best I ever felt, was when I felt like I had a really strong connection to a higher power.
Yeah.
And I'd worked on it a lot, and it really came to fruition. And even if some people say, well, that's voodoo, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It worked. It worked as much as it was real, as far as I knew. And if that's the truth to me, then that's great.
Well, it's also, you talk about, you had mentioned before, ego, right? Like that humility, or just a concept of humility, is so necessary, right, to navigate this. Because if you let the ego take over, it's trouble. You know what I mean? And I know I know that to some people listening, that we just sound like we're saying gobbledygook, but like it is one of those, like when you're somebody that if you like I've struggled with my ego and stuff like that, it's like the only way you can get that in line is having some humility. And the premise of religion, that, or belief system, that there's a higher power, is very kind of, it's like that structurally, literally puts you in a position of humbleness. You know what I mean?
Because you're working alongside somebody else or for somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so grateful that there's something else out there that I can believe. Because, I think I rejected the world so much that I was in growing up that I wasn't going to take direction from anybody in it, probably. I hated my environment so much. I despised my fucking environment, It just, everything about it fucking hurt me. I felt like, right? That's how I felt anyway.
Yeah.
And so no one in the world of human probably would I ever really believe in, right? So you almost need this satellite to beam through this other entity to help me get adjusted to trust the world again. And so that's why because for me, and everybody can have their own thoughts. But for me,
as long as they're the same as mine, I'm fine with it.
But for me, man, because I wouldn't have believed, if you'd have said, "Hey, listen to this guy," I don't know if I would have done that. But you give me an invisible being, right?
Yeah,
visually invisible, and there's just enough malleability in there for me to say, "Okay, I'm willing to try this," and then it opens up more of a door for me of of connection. Does that make any sense?
Yes, I think also like even saying, I think the whole agnostic I don't know is that's just where you got to be. You know what I mean? It's like I don't. I think that human beings are so arrogant. And the assumption that like every generation has thought that they've had it figured out, and every generation has been wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like even, so it's like, if we can't be like, we don't know, then we're really kind of starting from a bad position. So.
Yeah, dude. I don't know you think you'd have been like a good, if you go back to those times, you go on a date, would you have been like a good settler, you think? Where would you have best done in history? Where would you have best been?
Yeah, gosh. I sometimes think about like my immigrant ancestors because, I did that Finding Your Roots show.
I haven't seen that.
And so that's where they kind of, they do your ancestry.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah.
Where they take you to the library?
Well, no, mine was where they kind of like tracked my mother's side and my father's side. And
did you have to go meet someone at a mall or anything?
No, I didn't. This was, but so my grandfather made dentures, and I remember thinking, oh, he made dentures. That's interesting, dental stuff. But what I learned through that show is that my grandfather broke this cycle of working in the coal mine that had existed for generations. And so I think of my ancestors that came over from Ireland, and just that was rough. And, there's an ancestor that was framed for murder.
Oh, and how would you even prove you didn't do it back then? Like you did it.
Well, by the way, I think because he was, it was kind of theorized that he was there was this anti-immigrant stuff going on, and being an Irish immigrant, that he was part of the Molly Maguires, and so they framed him, and then he got pardoned by the governor. And they don't know, they never explain why he was pardoned. Was he pardoned because he was innocent? Was he pardoned because he
was crooked?
Because he was crooked, And so,
wow.
But so a different era. I feel like I'm so pale that, I need sunscreen,
Even by a computer, huh?
Yeah. Opening the fridge.
Oh.
So
yeah, that's got to be the saddest, dude, if you're real pale, because then if you open the fridge, everybody sees you too.
Yeah. And
if you're bigger and pale.
And so, no, but I
mean, it's not sad, it's beautiful, but it's
what era would you be in?
I don't know. The future seems way sketch, It's just, I feel like going to be people you drive up to a machine that feeds you and then you come into it.
Yeah. It would, but it has to be in the past.
Civil War could have been interesting, right? And if you would have been a referee, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Civil War, but people were just, so many people were killed. The equipment, the weapons
were so, yeah.
and it's you got shot They just chop off your leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they
You wouldn't
didn't
even have to be shot in the leg. They just chop.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, they had some of their a lot of their technical skills were way limited. It seems like, dude.
Whereas I think like
if some people, even if they had just had like Down syndrome, they're like, oh, he got shot by something. Like, no, this guy,
he's fine.
yeah,
he's fine.
Let him, he's just over here raking leaves. Let this guy
Leave him
loose,
alone.
man. I think there was a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, like, but I don't know, maybe, but then I don't know. You're right. People smelled so bad. I don't know if I would want to be a pilgrim because you're like, well, we're almost there and everybody's dying. And then you get there and you have nothing to do. There's nobody even waiting when you get there.
I do think that the South is really fascinating. I know you're, Louisiana.
Oh, yeah, it is fascinating.
It's because there's a civility there that, y'all and yes, ma'am, yes, sir. That is so different from the Midwest where I'm from, but there's a civility there and an authentic kindness that is kind of unique. It's kind of this remnants of the British thing with like the sweet tea versus the British drinking tea.
Yeah, there's kind of an old traditionalism there that really comes
there's
through.
also tons of racism.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you get it, it's a little slavey. You get into Mississippi, it's a little slavey,
But that kindness is fascinating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the crazy part about the South. It had this it had like two totally different ends of the spectrum, It
was like, be a gentleman, be polite.
Yeah.
But if you're black, you're not allowed to come in.
Yeah. So they had, that was just unreal. I can't even imagine that people went through all those times. It's really crazy to think that as humans, where we sit today, it's pretty unreal. And how quickly we fucking got to the place where we're just sitting here, masturbating into a phone.
Right. Well, also so we look at the bigotry or the bias of the past. What biases exist today that are the equivalent to, women couldn't vote until 1920.
Yeah.
Really African Americans couldn't freely vote until the 60s. So it's like what kind of, it's not like we're done. You know what I mean? Like there's some biases that exist today that we are kind of unaware of. We're like, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong. Like even like people, like I think when I started stand up, people used to do midget jokes and they used to always drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And people don't really do that anymore. But like, I'm sure I do jokes where people are like, in 40 years, people are going to be like, that hateful Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah. Look at this hate monger. Look at this.
He was like, he would talk about beef.
Jim Crow Gaffigan.
He would talk about meat. Like they ate meat back then. Like we're going to realize like we'll all become Hindu and like, the cows are these sacred beings.
Dude, if we all become Hindu, then your material is hate speech.
It's hate speech.
Bacon? Who are you?
Just like, what's going on?
You're the Stephen King
Muslims,
of a menu at that point.
Yeah, like to Muslims and Jewish people, it's like I'm glorifying this sinful thing. It's so weird.
Dude, that's so true. Depending upon how the future looks at things, or how they even choose to look at things as like writers of articles and this and that, you could be vilified.
Well, I think even the Roseanne thing that happened on your podcast is, maybe I'm just kind of opening my eyes a little bit to it, but like it literally took me 2 seconds. So I saw she was trending, saw what she said, then I watched the clip and I was like, obviously she was joking. She was being sarcastic. Why didn't... And I don't even know. That's all I know. Like, I didn't talk to anyone else about it. Does it still exist as an issue?
No. It's going away. It was just, it was just crazy. They just they took our episode down and they said that they gave us like a strike on our channel because they have But
they retracted it, right?
They didn't. but
did.
they have their policies, and we couldn't post for like a week. So those, that's YouTube and their policies. They deemed it like hate speech, and that's their rules, right? And so that's, I'm grateful to YouTube because I get to have this this platform. At the same time, I don't, I disagree with them.
But I think that anyone that, and that's where it's like, any individual who works at YouTube would probably, as an individual, see that what, Roseanne, a legendary comedian, and what she was saying was, and I think she's Jewish, would not view that as what some anti-Semitic person would say.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, it definitely was interesting though. I got him some rabbi emailed me and invited me to some summer camp or something. And but it was like $1,100. I'm not going to that. And then of course the Holocaust happened. Like who would ever,
my gosh.
Every third book at the airport is about it. How, you know what I'm saying? Of course it happened.
Well,
dude.
I think it's also not to excuse the overreaction, but I actually do think that there is an almost normalizing of anti-Semitic speech. And I also think that, and I'm not saying, because it's different when it's Roseanne Barr and like someone who is just a flat out anti-Semite or like speaking in anti-Semitic tropes. It's like, I do think it's, there's no comparing what Roseanne said to what these other people were doing.
Right, if there's like a real hateful person.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, I think anti-Semitism is like, I mean, look, most I don't know what percentage of comedians are Jewish, but it's like all our friends are Jewish. And it's like, you can't, stand-up comedy is a Jewish American art form that like is, so many of the great comedians were Jewish. So it's you end up being educated on anti-Semitism, and you can't do a spot at the Cellar without hearing 3 comedians do jokes about the Jewish American experience and anti-Semitism. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I think it's, I wish I had I can't tell if people bringing light to that makes things better or worse in that space.
right.
Because no one said anything about it. Like, 1 million people had watched the video. There wasn't even a comment about it on YouTube.
Right.
And then somebody makes a clip and purposely is like, hey, look at this, right? And this is the view of it. You don't want to create like a boy who cried wolf situation either.
No.
And so that's, especially when it's something as important as like as people being hateful, it's like you don't that's so some of that is where some of my fear comes in, like
we don't want people to become numb to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but then also, everybody has their different thoughts on it, and I respect different people's thoughts on it. I respect that people come from different places, and I respect different people's thoughts on it. But yeah, dude, I have a problem with how we keep putting Joe Biden out there. I feel like as a nation, it makes us look like, oh, this is how, and that we pretend everything is okay. Like, doesn't that seem weird to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm somebody, like, I think that if Trump wasn't there, or maybe I'm just imagining this, I think if Trump wasn't there, Biden would be like, I'm done. Thanks, everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to be
like,
done.
good night.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that
He might put on some long johns and just shut it down.
he'd be like, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I want to go and hang out with my wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And hang out with Barack. I don't want to do this anymore. But like,
I want to eat ice cream with the former prez. I want Baraki Road, dude. He's got to come out.
But
with
like,
that.
I think there's a difference between like the people that don't want to that again, I think ego gets in the way of like the greater good, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe he is like, I'm great, but I think it's fast. I'm trying to write this thing all about how, I saw Harrison Ford in that Raiders of the Lost Ark #4 or whatever.
Yeah.
He's 80. It was great. It was an action movie. And it's like, 80 for Brady. It's like, they're all 80.
Yeah. It's a good point.
And so,
Yeah, you want people to have long career. Yeah, but I just feel like if if maybe the media was like, this is our guy, he's gonna say some shit, Instead of, I feel like we put this, like people try to pretend that he's not getting unwell. That's the part to me that does it look weird to other people if it's like, this is how we treat our senior citizens, like as America.
It's not
like
how we treat. I think it's like, I thought your point would be more like everything's fine, like we're living in a state of denial. But I also felt that like during the entire pandemic, when Trump would do his daily newscasts, that we were all like, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's like, this guy is do you know what I mean? It's like, and we've all had bad bosses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, but I also feel, I don't know, it's weird. I really do think that if Trump was not a possibility, I think Biden'd be like, see you later. Yeah. He'd be like, I did my thing. I'm going to be in the history books. Goodbye, everyone.
Right.
Yeah. Michigan J Frog.
Yeah, it's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe it's just more of like a defense. But yeah, politics has just gotten so strange. It used to be so different, didn't it? It felt like we were all behind a leader. Didn't it feel like that?
I feel like it. It was so strange because I grew up in this small town. Indiana's a very red state, and I lived in Manhattan. I live in Manhattan, and that's very blue. And in the entertainment industry, it's very liberal, and comedians are very contrarian. And so I relish having friends of different opinions. Like at the 4th of July, I had a friend there who was a big kind of conservative, like, he's all in on DeSantis. And then I had a friend there that was, that wouldn't vote for Hillary. You know what I mean? So left, like Occupy Wall Street left.
Mm.
And so it's like, I like that diversity of opinion, but I feel like people that come to my shows, like even in the Dark Pale thing, I have this material on global warming. And, when I performed it around the country, there'd be some people that are like, all right, global warming, maybe. You know what I mean? Whereas like they're giving me they're like, all right, I don't know if I buy the premise.
Right.
But
I'm going to have fun.
I'll listen to the jokes.
Yeah.
And so I liked that they're open to that. But there is also, I don't know. It's weird. I know I'm kind of rambling. But.
No, it's okay. And we can even take that part out if we felt like it was too rambly, for both of us kind of, Let's take a little bit of news and then we'll get you out of here, Jim.
Okay, sure.
Because your special's coming out in a few days and the name of it is?
Dark Pale.
Dark Pale. Ooh.
Yes. Dark Pale.
That would be your Indian name, huh?
Dark Pale.
Dark Pale.
Dark Pale. Yeah. So it's, it's kind of, I wanted to go a little bit, I think comedians, our onstage personas are a little bit more accessible, and that maybe, like what makes comedians laugh when we hang out is usually darker than what's on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of opening some of that up and also talking. And I think that over the past 5 years, we've gone through so much darkness. We've all lost someone. lost some people, you know what I mean? And so there's a little dose of nihilism that I think
We need.
we need, right?
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
some people think we need a war.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Where'd you hear that?
Everywhere.
We need a war.
Because they think it would put people back on the same side. If we had a common enemy.
That's interesting. Because there is part of like what's going to
Yeah.
get us together. And
Oh,
I
definitely.
hope
As soon as somebody says, hey, it's us against them, it's like, all right, let's do this, you know?
yeah, I think that I don't know.
I don't know,
I mean,
just interesting.
I think coming from this split background of, I have real resentment when people talk about the middle of the country or flyover states.
Yeah, me too.
It's like I think that has to be shamed for the stupidity that it is, because, again, we were talking about it's not like you're not going to get a great meal. You know what I mean? Like there's this dismissive stereotype, and you'd think it would shrink with the internet, but I feel like it's almost kind of grown where people are I always think it's so weird when I'll do like a podcast or I'll be interviewed and someone will be like, so is it different doing material in different parts of the country? I'm like, not really. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not really that different. Do you know what I mean? It's not like people don't have every piece of technology or every form of entertainment everywhere. Culturally, we're very... and by the way, the world is like that. It's like, if anything, culture is disappearing. So that's not to say that there aren't different viewpoints on things. I don't mean to contradict myself earlier, but like, it's not like there's a real huge difference on...
Right, like from here to there.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I guess, I mean, there's some, like, I know whenever I've been in like Illinois and certain places out there, rural areas, they don't even have 5G on their phone. So it's like, if they want, it's like more of they have to be at home and be on their Wi-Fi to really be milling on their phones as much,
Oh, really?
Like some of my friends that work in like farming communities and stuff like that. So I think in some areas, there's probably a little bit less consumption.
Oh yeah, no. Where we have a place that we got after the pandemic, and if I'm outside working in my garden, I have no service whatsoever.
Yeah,
like it's just a no man land for cell service. So like my wife literally has to open the door like it's 1943.
Yeah,
Jim, get in here! Your kids are doing this. And I'll waddle over.
Yeah, what are they
with my basket of my harvest?
Yeah,
I love my garden. Do you garden at all?
I don't garden, man. I would like to have it someday. I will, once I quit touring a little bit after next year. What do you like to grow in your garden?
I love to grow just about everything, but like I'm jealous of like, so Louisiana, I could probably grow peanuts down there.
Ooh, yeah.
I could, I don't have that long of a season. So like there's some things that I can't grow that, and some of it is so interesting to grow things.
Could you grow wheat?
I could grow wheat. I grow corn. I grow cucumbers. I grow pumpkins, peppers, but like even peppers, it's like, it's, north, it's not that long.
Nobody
of a
wants a
season.
northern pepper.
No, well,
I don't
it's
even
just
believe
like,
it when it walks in.
but like it's you gotta wait. You need some real hot weather.
You need some harshness. You need some fucking pain in the fucking soil for a pepper to be like, all right, motherfucker,
Yeah,
I got this shit.
right.
That's the kind of pepper you want, dog.
Yeah,
like, damn, dog, I just got out.
Yeah, you want some. Peppers are the best.
God, they're so good, huh?
Right.
Whoever had them first was such a fucking weirdo, but they are good.
Oh, they're amazing.
What do I love putting in my mouth? I'm trying to think. Oh, dude, when I had those, a lot of Asian people will fry up a little cut of yam. Have you ever had that?
No.
My God.
Is it good?
Yeah.
So wait a minute, Louisiana, you like okra?
Yeah, I didn't mind it, dude. But then people start frying it, and dude, it starts to look like it's been giving a blowjob to somebody. It gets real viscous.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like it in a gumbo, but otherwise I'm like, I don't know about okra.
Yeah, when you lift up a spoonful of it, it has like a trail that goes back to the stuff, and you're like, "Whoa, this thing's been doing BJs." You know,
Yeah,
it's a bit much,
slimy.
Kinda. Yeah, it's real slimy.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. But what else do I like, man? I like broccoli plain. You know, my taste buds changed over the years. I just started liking tiramisu, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You are a dessert guy.
God, I fucking want it, boy. When it's nighttime, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I will get up in the middle of the night.
Sweets more than chocolate.
Well, it keeps me off of vaping, I notice. If I can get a sugar in me, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and put some peanut butter on my tongue and go back to sleep.
Peanut butter. I want to grow peanuts. I think peanuts.
What if you could do it? Jim Gaffigan's peanut butter.
Oh my God, I would love to do it. But peanuts, I haven't even watched a video of this, but I think the peanut plant grows and then the flowers drop into the ground and they become the peanuts.
Oh,
it's
beautiful.
Crazy. It's so crazy. I'm growing potatoes.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
I'm very excited about that.
That's
Carrots
insane.
are fun to grow.
Yeah, carrots are fun to grow.
You're
huh?
going to cut all this out of the podcast because it's so boring, probably.
This is the best part, I think. What else would I like to have?
Onions, garlic. I love garlic. Garlic is probably one of the best.
Garlic is good. It just feels so. It looks like something's wrong with it.
Oh, it looks alien.
Yeah.
It looks a little alien.
I do like seeing. I like watermelons.
Oh, watermelons are fun. That would be great to grow in the South.
Yeah, it's
Because
big down there.
watermelons and pumpkins, and squash, you turn your back, you look back, it's like they've grown a foot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
How big is your garden square feet? Are we talking?
It's not that big. I have two. I built one that when we got the place, it was kind of already there.
Mm-hmm.
And then here, let me see what I got here. Wait a minute. This is
Oh, there's a picture of you right there in some garden that looks like.
no, this is a hike, but this is my garden right now. Those are the raised beds. Oh yeah, see that's
Oh wow, Jim, this is beautiful.
yeah.
Dude.
But I have this. It's my wife calls it the English garden, and then that's my Irish garden, and so the Irish garden there was kind of this field that I kind of converted.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is see that field up there.
Mm-hmm.
This is what that field looks like now. So it's
Oh, that's great, man. And these are both on the same property.
yeah, and
Yeah,
so
one does look more Irish.
yeah, right.
This one looks more like it could have a headstone in part of it.
Yeah. And so, but this is, like you waste time. I don't know if you waste time on Instagram. So like on scrolling and all that.
Oh yeah, on TikTok.
I scroll on Instagram on stories, but I'm just watching people harvesting garden stuff.
That's beautiful. Now there's something romantic about that, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Get out there in the dirt. Grow
Oh
something.
yeah, my grandmother used to make us put these nets over her strawberries so the crows didn't get them.
Oh yeah.
You know, she lived out in Illinois, in rural Illinois, and they had a rain barrel out there, and they would collect rain.
Yeah.
And
Did she have any paint? Did she ever paint rocks to look like strawberries to trick?
yeah,
To trick the crows? Yeah.
dude, I never realized that's why she did that. But she would
Yeah.
always have these painted rocks.
Yeah, so the birds would come down, they'd peck at the rock, and then they'd be like, forget it, and they'd leave.
That's both the bird and the human that do that are freaking wild.
Yeah. And
That'd be crazy. Like that'd be like, what if you put a stone woman outside, and some rapist runs up?
the scarecrow, right? The scarecrow
yeah.
is supposed to scare. It's pretty crazy how there's all these things to trick the animals.
Mm-hmm.
To trick the animals, and then there's companion planting, which is fun, but
And what is that? Plants need friends, kind of. Plants need friends.
Oh, well, some people talk to their plants.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
And but a companion plant is like planting something nearby that either will help with nutrients or will deter pests. So, for instance, onions are certain pests don't like the smell of it, and then you grow like cilantro will deter things, and basil.
Oh yeah, I like having some basil, huh?
Basil's amazing.
A
Right?
lot of women who are having a tough time grow basil, I feel like.
Well, it's it'll bolt. It's like you got a secession plant.
Yeah.
None of this is going to end up in the episode.
Oh, I think it's interesting. Let's get into a couple news things and we'll get you
Yeah.
out of here, Jim. What happened in the news? Anything, Zach? What happened?
There's a video going around. I guess a mayor in Mexico married an alligator.
That's
I guess that's a good luck thing. But this is real.
no. This isn't part of some ritual.
Yeah, no, well, yeah.
It is part of a ritual.
Yeah, it's
Oh, these are-
good luck to the town.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. It seems kind of, well, they also have his mouth shut like that. What else we got?
Did they consummate the marriage?
Ooh.
Right.
There used to be a YouTube video of a man making love to a big chow, like a chow animal in a park on YouTube for years that they couldn't get down for some reason.
Really? They
Yeah.
couldn't get it down.
And I think it was in Santa Monica.
Oh, is this about sharks everywhere?
No.
Oh.
This video has gotten a ton of views. I guess this woman was faking cleaning up a beach for social media and then left all the trash there after. This has 5 million views, and a lot of people have a problem with this.
Oh. Yeah, it's all just for show now. So this girl's faking it?
Oh, and then she just left the bag there?
Not shocked. Wow. That's what happens, man. If people, it's just about what the look is, you know? It's hard.
So what is that? That is a symptom.
It's a sickness, huh?
It's the absence of right or wrong. I remember one time I saw a movie recently, and I was with my 10-year-old, and we were with a friend, and my 10-year-old spilled this big bucket of popcorn.
Oh.
And I was like, I looked at it, and I was like, and my friend was like, well, pick it up. And the weird thing is like, I was gonna pick it up, but I was like, he thought I wasn't gonna pick it up. And so I was like, but why wouldn't I pick it up? Because I think the tendency is like someone else will do it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Times have changed, man. I noticed when the elevator stops, people get out. People will get in before you've even had a chance to get out. That never used to be the case.
Wow. Well, here's an interesting thing that I think is happening. Usually when I'm out and about, and I used to, and I'd run into somebody and they'd be like, hey, nice to meet you. Da, da, da. We'd have a nice conversation. Then at the end, they used to say, hey, can I have a photo? Or I don't want to bother you, can I have a photo? Now they say, you have this nice conversation. We chat for a while. And then they go, hey, can you call a friend of mine?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, if you could call my nephew. And I'm like, no. And these are perfectly normal people.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, well,
Calling your friend?
I just want people to know
Yeah,
how
it's
cool
too
you
much,
are.
dude. Somebody the other day was like, hey, brother, this was the craziest thing I ever got. This guy is a young Mexican guy, and he had on a wife beater, right? And he's like, hey, will you sign my jersey? Right? That's what he called it, which made me laugh, first of all. It was really funny, and he seemed like a funny dude. We had a nice chat, and then he goes, hey, homie, will you make a video for my cousin Hector, right? Yeah. And he's like, what's wrong with... Yeah, sure I will. What do you want me to say? He's like, just say something nice, man. He got possessed by ghosts. That's what he said, right? And the guy's being totally serious. So I'm like, what do I even what do you want me to do?
Sorry, you're possessed by ghosts.
Yeah, so I was like, what do you want me to say? Like, just tell him we miss him, you know? So that's what I did. I was like, hey, Hector, homie, we miss you, dog. But it was just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's the value here? You know, what's the value? Like what onions are we growing?
Right.
That's the overall question here. You have a new TV series that's out too, right?
Yes. Yes.
Dude, you're doing a lot of acting. Do you think that's where you're going to start directing more? Do you think you're going to?
No. But I hope to act. I hope to act, and I love stand up, and
since Philip Seymour Hoffman died, you could take over his stuff.
I mean, everyone keeps saying that. Why? It is like one of those things where part of me, when people say that, I always think that's weirdly common that people say that, and the other part of me is like, why aren't I getting those roles?
Dude, if they did Capote too or something. It is kind of funny, man. Sometimes people's brains just fill in the other person, you know.
Who would play you?
Ooh, I don't know. Probably. There's this. If I died, there's this kid named Rupp. He's like I don't know what show he was on, but
That
he's
sounds
interesting.
familiar.
DJ Rupp, bring him up. He would play me, I think. This kid, but get him more. Let's just see any more pictures of him without the dreadlocks.
What's the dreads from?
I'm not sure. Yeah, these are all old pictures of him, but I think he would probably play me. I think I could see him doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know who.
Where
else.
is he from?
I'm not sure. Probably
DJ
prison.
Rupp. Is he a DJ?
I don't know if he really is, but he's funny, dude. This dude is really, really funny. But I think he could probably play me. Who would play you? You think? Say you die, you passed away, or
If
something
I
happened.
died, who's the guy who?
Oh, I know who it is. Jesse Pemberton.
Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Plemons. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, he's good.
Did you ever meet him?
I've never met him. I met Phil Hoffman a couple times.
You did?
Yeah.
Did he say, "Hey, you look like me a little"?
No. I mean, yeah, I think we both had heard it. And we improvised a movie where with a bunch of other people, and they were figuring out, it was this Bob Balaban who does these other things, and it was a great gig. Like, I was flown to LA to improvise this movie every day and all this, and this was in the maybe 2000s, and or maybe it was before that. And so anyway, so we're sitting there talking, and so I'm with Phil, and I go, well, we should probably play brothers. And the guy's like, I was thinking more you guys are friends. And I'm like, all right. I mean, we literally look like brothers, but okay. And so,
Yeah, that
Isn't
guy
that
has
weird?
no vision then.
no, but he's obviously, Bob Balaban's brilliant, but it
Oh,
was
is he a
just-
brilliant guy? I didn't
He
know.
is a brilliant guy. And he, but like, that's not how we saw it. But it was, and we never ended up, we improvised the script, and then Bob was going to go away and write it. And then after that, Phil Hoffman, like, then it was Capote, and he was,
On another level.
yeah.
Did you ever get to spend time? Oh, yeah. Wow. I could definitely see it more and more now.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
I think how old was he? What year was he born? What if we were born the same day? If we were found out that we were like found the same parents.
July 23rd,
67.
1967.
I'm July 7th, 1966.
Dude, what if y'all are the
It's-
same person?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Oh, he's from the West Village.
No, well, he was from.
Oh, he died in the West Village.
Yeah, I think he's from Rochester.
Fairport, New York.
Wow.
Where?
Fairport, New York.
Did you ever spend time with Robin Williams?
I met him a couple times. Yeah,
Was he like one of the biggest? When you met him, was he just like he was on another level? Was it?
he was the nicest, sweetest guy. Like, I met him at. He did Bob Goldthwait's movie, and he was this really sweet. It's really weird because he was known as, among the comedians. I mean, before he went back to doing stand-up, he was known as this guy that would steal people's material.
Mm.
Like some of it is, I think he was on coke and he was unaware of it, and
he talked so much that he was triple timing anything. So
yeah, and so he was
easily.
But you know, he was the sweetest. Like every time I met him, I didn't feel like I was. You know, it was like talking to a just another comedian. It was very strange because it wasn't like you know how in LA everyone's kind of looking around the room.
Yeah,
it was just a conversation.
He was locked in.
Yeah, it was pretty special. Like you see why people were
attracted to him.
Yeah,
and was he little or was he regular size?
He was not. He was similar to Brody. He was a hairy guy.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, I think he wasn't super tiny.
Yeah,
but he was not 5'10".
Do you start to think about it? Is there a spot where like a comfortable place where comedians retire? Do you ever think about that? Like I know you talked earlier about not staying in it too long, you know? Like is there a comfortable place where people
I don't know. I feel like
do you think about that at all? I'm not saying there is or isn't.
No, I feel like stand up is a living kind of thing that you know, people might not be interested in you doing it, but I think you can continue to do it. And I think that there is something so emotionally rewarding about doing it. Don't you feel that way?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas but I don't think it's yeah, I mean, I think that it's just kind of like coming up with new material is just too rewarding to kind of give up.
Yeah, there is something great about
Right?
it, huh? You get one
Just
new
that
line. And
one new line, you're like, aha.
I'm hooked for another year.
Right?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of stuff. Zach, do you have anything else?
No, I think we're all good. Jim might have to go, but.
Okay. Jim, thanks so
Cool.
much, man.
Thank
Sorry,
you
I didn't
so
know we'd
much.
be in here so long.
No, it's good. It's good. It's fun.
Now I'm just floating on the breeze, and I feel I'm falling like these leaves. I must be cornerstone. Oh, but when I reach that ground, I'll share this peace of mind I found. I can feel it in my bones, but it's gonna take